Evening, everyone. Tonight we're heading back a couple thousand years to the roar of the Colosseum, the smell of iron and dust, and the lives of men who fought not for glory, but survival. Forget the slow-motion movie scenes and perfect armor. The truth was a lot dirtier and a lot quieter. These were real people. They trained, they bled, and sometimes they dreamed of freedom. So, before we step into their world, take a second to settle in. Maybe dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, or just let the noise of the day fade away for a bit. If you enjoy drifting off to forgotten history, consider subscribing. It helps more night wanderers find their way here. And let me know down in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you. All right, find your calm and let's begin. The Colosseum sleeps now. Moonlight spills across the broken arches, and the wind sighs through the cracks like it's trying to whisper a secret. Tourists have gone home, the cameras are off, only the ghosts remain, and the sand. They say sand forgets everything. That's not true. Sand remembers everything, every cheer, every scream, every drop of blood that fell here 2,000 years ago still has a story. Tonight, we're going to listen. If you stand here long enough, just you, the moon, and the ruins, the air feels thick with echoes. You can almost hear it, the stomp of sandals, the crack of whips, the growl of caged lions waiting for their turn. And somewhere deep under all that, the heartbeat of a man who knows tomorrow might be his last sunrise. That man was a gladiator. Not the movie kind with perfect armor and slow-motion speeches. The real ones smelled bad, ate beans for breakfast, and prayed their opponent sneezed mid-swing. They were slaves, criminals, and sometimes even volunteers, people who gambled their lives for money, fame, or a shot at freedom. But for Rome, they were entertainment. The Romans loved a good show. They built this giant ring, the Amphitheatrum Flavium, which is just fancy Latin for giant death stadium. 50,000 people packed inside, shouting for blood like it was halftime at a football game. And in the middle of it all was a man with a sword, sand in his eyes, and a prayer in his chest. When we picture him, we usually think of strength, a warrior. But behind that armor, most were terrified. They were beaten, bought, branded, trained like cattle. They didn't wake up saying, "Can't wait to fight a lion today." They woke up hoping to stay alive long enough to taste dinner. Still, the Colosseum gave them something rare, a stage. Imagine being nobody your whole life, then stepping into the sunlight while 50,000 people chant your name. For one heartbeat, you matter. For one heartbeat, the world knows you exist. That heartbeat is what we're chasing tonight. The ruins don't tell you much at first. You see stones, arches, old bones of an empire. But look closer. You'll see carvings, little scratches on the walls left by men who knew they'd never walk out again. Names, prayers, jokes. One reads, "Felix the Thriax was here." Felix probably died 2 fights later, but the sand remembers his name. That's the thing about the Colosseum. It's not just a ruin. It's a memory palace made of dust. If you were standing here on a real fight day, it would smell awful. Sweat, blood, animals, perfume, and whatever was rotting in the heat that week. Vendors shouted about dates, wine, and honey cakes. Kids begged for souvenirs, probably a broken sword tip or a bit of helmet. And above it all, the emperor watched from a golden seat, pretending this was about honor and not public distraction. Rome was built on order, but it ran on spectacle. People worked hard, paid taxes, and needed something to cheer for, or at least something to fear. The games gave them both. It started simple: mock battles, animal hunts, a few executions before lunch. Then it got bigger. More animals, more armor, more blood. The arena floor had hidden trapdoors that could raise whole trees, cages, or even ships. Yes, they once flooded the Colosseum to stage fake sea battles. It was less sports event and more massive historical fever dream. Some days the shows lasted 10 hours. If you fainted in the stands, tough luck, you'd wake up to another sword fight. And when the crowd chanted, "Ugula, kill him," that was the end of the show. But here's what most people forget. The games weren't constant killing. They were also training, rituals, and strange routines that made life in the ludus, the gladiator school, weirdly ordinary. Men cooked, argued, shared stories, even laughed. They had friends, they got sick, they dreamed. That's the part history doesn't usually show, the quiet hours between the battles, the small details that made these men human. And that's where our story really begins. Before we step into the arena, let's rewind the clock. It's dawn in Rome. The air smells like smoke and olives. Somewhere a rooster yells like it's being paid by the hour. The streets are waking up, merchants lifting shutters, slaves fetching water, bakers already covered in flour. Down a narrow side street sits a tall stone building with heavy iron doors. That's the Ludus Magnus, the biggest gladiator school in Rome. Think of it as a mix between a gym, a prison, and a reality show where the losers don't come back next season. Inside, rows of cells hold men from every corner of the empire: Greeks, Africans, Gauls, even Romans who fell from grace. They're packed shoulder to shoulder, sleeping on straw that smells like regret. Some pray, some snore, some just stare at the ceiling, wondering if they'll see another sunrise. The sun isn't up yet, but the lanista, the trainer, is. He's a grumpy man with a whip and the voice of a broken trumpet. When he yells, everyone listens. Up! Move! You think the crowd's gonna wait for you. The men groan and stretch, bones popping like dry sticks. Their muscles ache from yesterday's drills. One jokes, "At least if I die, I won't have to train tomorrow." No one laughs too loud. The lanista might hear. In the corner, a young fighter rubs the scar on his shoulder, a souvenir from his first match. He doesn't know it yet, but the scar will outlive him. He hums a tune his mother used to sing, the sound lost under the clank of armor and iron. This isn't courage, it's routine, and maybe that's the saddest part. When death becomes routine, life becomes the real battle. The men file out into the courtyard. The ground is still wet from last night's rain, and the air smells clean for once. They take wooden swords, practice swings, duck under whips. Sparring begins, wooden against wooden, flesh against fear. Every hit echoes through the walls like a heartbeat. They don't fight to kill here, they fight to learn, because when the real fight comes, there are no lessons left. And if you were watching from the sidelines, you might not see slaves or killers. You'd see something strangely beautiful: motion, rhythm, control, a language of muscle and sand. Somewhere between art and survival. That's the thing about Rome. It turned everything into performance. Politics, religion, death, all part of the same stage. And the gladiator was the perfect symbol. Human strength shaped by power, destroyed for pleasure. But here's the twist. The crowd wasn't cheering for death. Not really. They were cheering for the moment before it. That fragile heartbeat when anything could happen. That's why the Colosseum still feels alive even now. It's not haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by possibilities. Every stone remembers the moment right before the sword fell. And maybe that's why we keep looking back at it, because deep down, we all wonder, would we have survived? Would we have fought? Or would we have been the ones cheering from the stands? The truth is, there were no heroes here. Only people caught inside a system too big to escape. Some found fame, some found freedom, most found the dirt. But tonight, under this pale Roman moon, they all get one more story. Because history might have forgotten their names, but the sand remembers. The day starts before the sun. The ludus, the gladiator school, shivers in the dark. Stone walls hold the cool of night. The air tastes like old smoke, sweat, and damp straw. Somewhere a rat does a quiet patrol, like it owns the place. To be fair, it might. Then the sound comes. Not a trumpet, not a bell. Iron, a heavy bar sliding out of hooks. The first gate of the morning. A door yawns open. Cold air slips in. Voices rise, cough, sink again. The cells are small. Each one is a box of shadows and breath. Straw beds, a clay jar for water, a corner bucket no one brags about, a low shelf for a bowl and spoon. A few lucky men have a charm or a bone token, something to hold when the fear gets loud. The iron bars cut the moonlight into neat lines on the floor. On the wall, someone scratched a name. Someone else scratched it out. New men arrive. Old men don't leave messages. Not many, anyway. A cough. A foot drags. Someone swears in a language you don't know. Someone whispers a prayer in Latin, fast and soft, like he does it every day. Up! Move! The voice hits the hallway. It's the lanista, the trainer. His voice is made of gravel and orders. He is not your friend. He is not your enemy either. He is the boss of your chances. Keys clink. Chains clatter. The gate of iron answers back with a groan that sounds older than Rome. One by one, doors wake. In cell 7, a man sits up slow. We'll follow him. He is not a star. He has no nickname carved into marble. He is a body, a breath, a heartbeat on a schedule. He keeps his eyes half shut for a moment. It helps. He listens. He counts. He knows the steps. Unlock, shout, line up, count, water, food, training. Routine is a rope. He holds it tight. He stands. His knees complain. His back answers. He is young enough to heal and old enough to know healing is not free. His name is not the point. Call him the fighter. Or call him one of us, because that is closer to the truth. He reaches for the clay jar and drinks a little, not too much. Cold water makes the belly cramp if you chug it. He learned that the hard way. He ties a strip of cloth around his wrist. It's not lucky. It is the only thing he can choose today. The lanista's sandals slap the stones. Up, barley men. The sand wants you. A few men laugh, because if you don't laugh, you might scream. Barley men. The old joke. Gladiators eat a lot of barley. People call them that, like a team name no one asked for. The fighter steps to the bars. Across the hall, a tall Thracian rolls his neck. Next door, a small Gaul wipes sleep from his eyes with the back of his hand and mutters, "Another day closer." Closer to what? Someone asks. Breakfast, he says. A tiny win. The key turns. The iron mouth opens. They file out into the corridor. Bodies, scars, stairs. No one walks slow. No one runs. There is a rhythm to safety. Don't stand out. Don't fall behind. The corridor pours into a small yard of stone. The sky is a deep blue bruise. Somewhere, a rooster screams like it's in charge of Rome. The lanista glares at it. The rooster keeps his job. The cook is already awake. He bangs bowls down on a long table. Steam rises from a big pot. Barley porridge, beans, vinegar water. Sometimes a spoon of oil, sometimes a pinch of salt. Not a feast, fuel. They line up with bowls. An old medic stands nearby, eyes sharp, counting coughs. He knows who is faking strong and who is truly hurt. He can smell a torn muscle from a pace away. He gives a nod to the fighter. Not kind, not cruel. "I want to keep you expensive," he says. "Eat." The fighter eats. The porridge is hot and plain, but it fills the stomach, and that is what matters. He scoops fast, but not rude. Fast looks greedy. Slow looks weak. Middle is best. He is good at the middle. A boy, new, thin, eyes too big, tries to joke. "I miss bread." A veteran with a broken nose answers, "I miss toes." Everyone looks down at his foot. 2 toes are half there and half gone, like the sea chewed them. He grins. Sand is worse than sharks. The boy laughs because he's supposed to. He will learn which jokes are safe. The lanista claps his hands once. The sound is a strike. "Yard," he says. Bowls down, bodies up. They move. The training yard holds the day's first light. It smells like dust, oil, and the memory of blood. A rack of wooden swords, rudies, leans against a wall. A row of shields, a stack of helmets, a barrel of water. In the corner, a post scarred by 1,000 practice cuts stands like a tired tree. The lanista points. You, Murmillo. He taps one man's helmet with a fin on top. Heavy shield, short sword. You, secutor. Smooth helmet, small eye holes, designed to chase. You, retiarius. Net and trident, no helmet. Try not to die. A few snorts. Retiari die often, or so it feels. He moves down the line, sorting men like tools. Thraex, curved sword, tall greaves. Hoplomachus, spear and round shield. He taps the fighter's chest with 2 fingers. Murmillo today. The fighter nods once. Murmillo suits him. His legs are strong. He can lift the heavy shield and still move his feet. The lanista barks, "Pairs!" Partners face each other, shields up, wooden swords loose in the hand, then tight, then loose again. Breathe. Don't lock your knees, eyes on shoulders, not the blade. The blade lies, shoulders tell the story. The first clash is loud. Wood on wood, shield on shield. Sand jumps, the yard wakes fully. Again, again, again. They drill footwork, forward 2, back 1, left pivot, right pivot. A step is a choice, a bad step is a scar. The sun slides up the wall like a slow fire. The cool air turns warm, sweat beads, then runs. The lanista walks the lines, scolding, correcting, smacking a calf with his stick when a heel lifts wrong. Down, he snaps, and 20 knees bend. Up, he snaps, and 20 backs straighten. The fighter tastes metal in his mouth. Not blood, just breath that has gone hard from effort. His arms hum, his legs burn. His mind goes quiet in the way he likes. No past, no later, only now. Switch. Retiarius trades partners with Secutor. Net hisses through air. Helmet shines. The pair dances the old dance. Chase and catch. Bait and strike. A boy drops his shield with a clatter. The yard freezes for a heartbeat. The lanista does not shout. He waits. The silence is a lesson the boy will not forget. The boy picks up the shield with 2 hands and a red face. Training breathes again. By the water barrel, the medic watches. He notes limps, favoring, flinches. He sees the fighter hide a twist in his left wrist and files it in his head. Later, he will wrap it in linen and say nothing. Break. Men back away from each other. They stand in the shade for a short minute, hands on hips, mouths open like fish. Someone jokes, "I could win any fight if it was lying down." Someone else says, "I could win any fight if it was eating." They all agree. On the far wall hangs a board, names, marks, small tallies made with charcoal, wins, losses. The fighter has marks that say, "He is still here." That is the best mark. A crowd passes on the street outside the wall. Market folk, children, a soldier with a dented helmet. Voices leak in. A woman laughs. For a blink, the yard feels like part of the city. Then the lanista claps again, and the walls close tight. Forms, he says. They move through patterns without a partner. Cut from the right. Shield bash, short step. Cut from the left. Breathe. It looks like a strange, slow dance. It is not slow to them. Every motion is a seed of a future breath. The lanista stops behind the fighter. Where are your feet? Under me. Where will they be when you are afraid? Still under me. A pause. Good. Keep them there. A laugh nudges through the line. The lanista pretends not to hear it. He is not cruel for fun. He is cruel for work. Now the lanista calls for shields only. Live shield. Wood sword. Half speed. Half speed looks calm. It is not calm. Half speed shows all the holes. Most men would rather go full speed and hide in chaos. The fighter holds. He takes 3 hits on the rim, 1 on the boss, 1 kiss on the forearm that will bloom a purple flower by night. He lands 2 slow taps on his partner's ribs. The lanista grunts. Approval. Tiny, but real. A young scribe sits under an arch, scratching notes on a wax tablet. He works for the lanista. He writes who trains well, who gasses out, who cheats. He also writes who might sell tickets someday. The fighter sees him and looks away. Fame is a hook with honey on it. Water. They drink by rank. Older fighters first, then the rest. A few pour water over their heads and shiver. The medic tuts. You'll cramp. They do it anyway. It feels like a small rebellion. Even small rebellions taste good. The lanista waves to a rack at the back. Live steel, he says, then adds, sheathed. The yard goes quiet again. Real weight changes everything. They keep tips covered, edges wrapped, but even wrapped steel remembers. Pairs square up. The sound changes. Wrapped blades make a dull thud. Shields sing a lower song. The fighter breathes through his nose. He moves his feet like he practiced. He does not chase. He does not run. He waits for the shoulder to speak, not the blade. A feint, a step, a shortcut, contact, a nod from the lanista. Another seed planted. Enough. They unbelt the sheaths, hang the blades, rub their wrists. The sun has climbed. Heat settles on the yard like a lazy cat. The lanista walks to the center. Listen, he says. The yard listens. You are here for one reason. You must live in the fight. To live in the fight, you must live here first. In the yard. In your steps. In your breath. In your fear. He points at his chest. Keep it small. Keep it steady. When the crowd is loud, your breath must be quiet. He looks around, daring someone to disagree. No one does. He nods to the medic. Check the wrist, he says without pointing. The medic's eyes flick to the fighter. He nods back. Later. Training shifts to drills with the palace, the post. Each man takes a turn beating the old wood with all he has left. Thud, thud, thud. The post does not care, but it teaches anyway. Between drills, men joke in low voices. Think the emperor will come today? Not unless he's bored. So, yes. Soft laughter. It is not funny, but it keeps the chest light for one more minute. From a high window, an older man watches, broad shoulders, scar down the cheek, eyes like a hawk. He used to be someone in the arena. Now he teaches footwork with a limp. He raises 2 fingers to the fighter, then drops them. Lower your shield edge. The fighter lowers it a hair. Better. The sun stands straight up. The lanista raises his hand. Stop. Bodies sag in quiet thanks. He points to 3 men. You, with me. Selection day. A minor match, maybe. Or a show for a rich house, or something worse. The 3 men keep their faces still. Inside, the sea rises. The rest file toward the shade again. A slave brings a basket with figs and hard bread. A gift from a sponsor, maybe. The men each take 1 fig. The taste hits like a small holiday. In the shadow of the wall, the fighter flexes his left wrist. The medic appears like a ghost. Hold still, he says. He winds a strip of linen around the joint, firm but not cruel. Thank you, the fighter says. You'll thank me if you keep your shield up. A beat. Eat the fig. The lanista surveys the yard. He sees men who will live. He sees men who will not. He does not say which is which. He claps once more. Afternoon rest, then forms, then drills, then stew. A few cheers for stew, half joking, half true. Food is hope in a bowl. They break ranks. Some sit with backs to the warm stone and close their eyes for 10 breaths. Some wrap cloth around toes, ankles, hands. Some whisper to gods who might be listening on their lunch break. The fighter leans his head back and finds one tiny square of shade. He thinks of nothing on purpose. Nothing is rest. Outside the wall, Rome keeps moving. Barter, gossip, carts, law. Inside the wall, the world is simple. Swing, step, breathe, eat, sleep, wake, swing again. It is prison. It is a path. It is both. The iron gate sighs as a breeze slips through the corridor. It smells faintly of olive wood smoke, plus something sweet from a baker's oven far away. A man murmurs, "I could kill for a loaf." Another says, "Save it for the arena." They chuckle. It is a bad joke. It helps anyway. A bell sounds from somewhere deep in the ludus. Not a grand bell, a small one, a reminder. Time moves. Time always moves, even when the heart wants it to stop. The fighter opens his eyes. He rolls his shoulders. He tests the wrist. Better. He stands. The Lanista's shadow crosses the yard. "Back to it," he says. No roar, no speech, just the rule of the day. The men rise like waves. They pick up the wooden swords. They face the old post. They face each other. They face themselves. The gate of iron waits at the far end. It will open again. It always does. The yard smells like heat and barley. That means it's breakfast time, or what passes for breakfast when you live behind iron bars. The sun isn't even full yet. Light sneaks in through the cracks like it's scared to be here, but the kitchen is already alive. Pots boiling, spoons scraping, someone arguing about whose turn it is to stir. No one wants to stir. Stirring means you're close to the pot, and the cook has a mean aim with his ladle. Inside the ludus, food is serious business. You don't waste it, you don't drop it, you don't steal it, you guard it like treasure. Because it kind of is. The smell isn't bad, actually. It's heavy, warm, and weirdly comforting, like someone boiled an entire field and said, "This'll do." The pot holds the usual, barley porridge, thick as wet clay, with a handful of beans floating on top like lazy boats. If it's a lucky day, there's oil. If it's a very lucky day, there's salt. Salt is gold here. You could start an argument over a pinch. You could end one too, if you offered it quick enough. The Lanista stands by the door, arms crossed, watching like a hawk that's also part accountant. He knows how much food each man gets. If you try to take more, you'll be practicing push-ups until your soul leaves your body. "Bowls," he barks. 50 men lift 50 wooden bowls. The sound is soft but serious. One by one they step up. The cook, an old man with one eye and zero patience, ladles a scoop into each bowl. "Next," he mutters. "Scoop splash. Step. Next." The rhythm is hypnotic. If the Empire ever built a clock, it probably ticked like this. The fighter stands in line, bowl in hand, stomach already awake. He glances at the men ahead. Some smile, some stare, some whisper tiny prayers to unknown gods of breakfast. When it's his turn, the cook squints. "You again." "As long as I'm alive," the fighter says. The cook snorts. "That's optimism I don't have time for." He drops a scoop into the bowl, splat, then adds 2 beans, almost kind. "Don't choke," he says. The fighter nods. "I'll do my best." They take seats on long stone benches in the dining hall, rows of men hunched over bowls like monks at a strange church. The only prayer here is chewing. Some eat fast, some slow, some stare into the steam like they're seeing the future, and it's full of more porridge. A young recruit across the table pokes his food with the spoon. "Why is it always barley?" A veteran, missing 3 teeth, grins. "Because we're barley men." "You didn't read the brochure?" The recruit frowns. "I didn't sign up." "None of us did," the veteran says. "But hey, good for your muscles." He flexes an arm that looks like it could punch through a door. "See? Barley power. The recruit pretends to be impressed. So that's what strong tastes like? The veteran shrugs. Mostly disappointment. They both laugh. Even the fighter smiles into his bowl. The lanista walks between the rows. He says nothing, just watches. When someone leaves a scrap uneaten, his eyebrow goes up, and the man quickly finishes. Waste is weakness here, and weakness, well, weakness bleeds. The medic appears with a small pouch. He stops behind the fighter. How's the wrist? Still attached, the fighter says. That's my kind of progress. He unwraps the linen, checks it, and rewraps it tighter. Keep it dry. Don't make me sew it later. No promises. The medic sighs. You people think I'm a god with a needle. Are you not? Ask me after your next fight. He walks off, shaking his head, muttering something about idiots and barley. Breakfast goes quiet again. Only sounds, spoons scraping wood, a few coughs, one loud swallow that makes everyone look over. The man blushes. Sorry. No one says anything. Then someone burps so loud it echoes off the walls. Everyone laughs, and the tension breaks like a bad rope. Halfway through, a messenger walks in. Young, clean tunic, ink on his fingers. He whispers to the lanista. The lanista frowns, nods once, waves him off. Someone whispers, "What was that about?" Another says, "Maybe new matches." The fighter keeps eating. He's learned not to ask. When it's your turn, you'll know. When it's not, keep your mouth full. After breakfast, bowls are stacked, washed, and put away, not by servants, by the fighters themselves. Teaches respect, the lanista says. Maybe. Or maybe he just likes clean dishes. The yard fills again, sunlight brighter now. Training will start soon, but for a short moment, there's calm. Men sit by the wall, rubbing oil on their arms, checking straps on sandals, fixing loose ties on armor. The sound is soft and steady, leather creaking, water splashing, whispers mixing with birds. One man pulls out a small charm carved from bone. He kisses it, ties it to his wrist, and tucks it under his sleeve. The fighter glances over. That for luck? For memory, the man says. Of what? Of who I was. The fighter nods. He gets it. Most here used to be someone. A farmer, a thief, a soldier, a dreamer. Now they're all the same. Men waiting to see another sunset. A small group gathers around a storyteller. Every ludus has one. He's an old man with scars and a voice like gravel soaked in wine. He tells a story between bites of bread. Back in Capua, he says, we had a man who swore he'd never die. Said the gods themselves couldn't touch him. Someone snorts. Did he live forever? The old man grins. No. A retiarius tripped him into a wall, broke his neck. Laughter. He chews, then adds, but for a second, I believed him. That's what I miss. The fighter says quietly, belief? The old man nods. Yeah, belief makes the barley taste better. The lanista calls out, form up. Breakfast is over. Rest is over. Life here doesn't wait for feelings. As the men stand, one trips, spilling a bit of water from his cup. Everyone freezes. The lanista looks over, slow as a shadow. The man stammers, sorry, The lanista lifts a hand. Just clean it. The man sighs with relief. Then the lanista adds, with your sleeve. The man sighs again, wipes the floor, sleeve soaked, pride dented. No one laughs this time. Lesson learned, before drills, there's always a speech. Not long, just enough to remind them what they are. You eat barley because it makes you hard, the lanista says. You eat beans because they fill you cheap. You drink vinegar water because wine is for the crowd, not for you. He looks around. You don't need flavor. You need fight. He pauses. Still, he adds, if anyone steals my salt again, I'll feed them to the lions myself. A ripple of nervous laughter. The fighter thinks about salt while he stretches. He remembers once, back home, his mother sprinkling it over bread. The smell, the warmth, the sound of her laugh. He wonders if she's still alive. He hopes she's not in debt. He hopes she never sees his name on a poster outside an arena. When the horn blows, breakfast feels like another life. The yard shifts from quiet to chaos. Men grab weapons, sand flies. The day begins again. But for now, let's stay with the food a little longer. Gladiator diets were strange, but smart. Historians later found their bones and saw the proof. Strong, thick, dense. Barley built them better than meat ever could. The Romans even called them hordeari, barley eaters, like it was both insult and praise. They drank a mix of vinegar and water called pasca, cheap, sour, keeps the gut clean. It also made you burp loud enough to wake the gods, which explains breakfast entertainment. Some schools gave their best fighters figs, nuts, and bits of cheese to heal faster. Others just said, "Don't die," and called that good medicine. Still, the men survived longer than most slaves in Rome, because the lanista needed them alive. You don't throw away what costs gold. By late morning, the pots are clean. The smell fades, replaced by sweat and dust. The cook sits alone, sharpening his ladle like a weapon. He hums an old song from a place he can't go back to. He looks at the pot and says, "See you tomorrow." The pot doesn't answer. It never does. The fighter wipes his bowl clean, sets it down, and looks toward the yard. He rolls his wrist again. The wrap holds. The air shimmers with heat already. He knows what's next. Drills, bruises, maybe a small fight before lunch. But for this one short moment, with barley in his belly and the sun climbing slow, life feels almost normal. He hears laughter from the corner where the storyteller sits. He smells oil and iron. He breathes. Across the hall, someone starts singing a soldier's song, off-key but brave. It's about home, love, and someone who promised to wait. Half the words are wrong, but no one corrects him. They just hum along. Even the lanista doesn't stop it. He listens, arms crossed, pretending not to. The song ends. Silence fills the cracks again. The lanista clears his throat. "All right," he says. "Enough peace. Time to earn your porridge." The men stand. They grab shields, swords, nets. The world narrows back to motion and muscle. The fighter steps into the sunlight. The sand sticks to his feet, hot and familiar. He glances at the iron gate. It waits, patient and cold. Breakfast is over. The day is young. And the sand remembers. The yard wakes again, not all at once, like a beast stretching after a nap. First the sound of sandals, then the low grunts of men warming up, then the crack of wood hitting wood. That's the sound of the ludus breathing. The lanista calls it music. The fighters call it pain with rhythm. Either way, it fills the morning. The yard isn't big, maybe the size of a small market. Stone walls close it in, high enough that you can't see the street. Only the sky above. A pale blue bowl, already hot enough to make sweat before breakfast is done digesting. The ground is packed sand, darker where the sweat drips. Wooden dummies, payless, line one wall like tired soldiers. You can tell which ones are popular by the scars on their faces. Near the gate, barrels of water wait for mercy. They won't get much. The lanista steps into the sun. His voice hits the yard like a whip. "All right, barley man. Make it sound like work." The men answer with shouts and clanks and one sarcastic, "Yes, master." He ignores it. If he punished every mouth, he'd need a second lifetime. The fighter stands in the middle row, wooden sword in one hand, shield in the other. He rolls his shoulder, testing the wrist again. Feels okay. Beside him, the Thracian with the crooked nose grins. "Today," he says, "I will not die." The fighter nods. Good plan. Better than yesterday's. What was yesterday's? "Don't throw up." They laugh. It helps the fear stay small. The lanista points to the yard's edge. A group of older fighters walk out carrying weapons and armor. They wear the types like titles. "Know your kind," the lanista shouts. He holds up a helmet shaped like a fish, the murmillo. Heavy shield, short sword, lots of sweating. Then he lifts a trident and net, the retiarius. Fast, clever, and very dead if you miss. Next, a curved blade, the thraex. Short reach, sharp temper. And finally, the secutor. Smooth helmet with tiny eye holes, built to chase. They face each other in pairs, each style born to fight its opposite. "Watch," the lanista yells. The pairs move slow at first, showing the forms. Step, swing, block counter. The retiarius throws his net. It sails wide, lands with a soft plop. The lanista groans. "You'd miss a mountain." The yard laughs. The retiarius shrugs. Maybe the mountain moves. When the demo ends, it's time for drills. The lanista claps twice. Split the yard. Half the men pair off to spar. The rest attack the palus, the wooden posts. The air fills with a storm of motion. Wooden swords smack. Sand sprays. Someone grunts. Someone swears. Someone yells, "My eye." The lanista shouts back, "You still have one. Use it." The fighter squares off with his partner, the same Thracian from breakfast. "Ready?" "Never," the Thracian says, lifting his shield. They circle, slow steps in the sand. Swords tap shields, testing. Then a quick strike, block, a fake, counter. They move like they've done this forever. Maybe they have. The lanista paces behind them, muttering, "Keep your head down. Breathe through the pain. Don't wait for mercy. It doesn't wait for you." He hits the fighter's shield with a stick. Too low. "You want your knees chopped off?" The fighter lifts it an inch. "Better. Now make it look like you mean it." The sun climbs. The air thickens. Every breath tastes like dust and sweat. The palus posts thud like a slow drum beat. It's almost musical if you forget its work. A bird lands on the wall and watches. It tilts its head, unimpressed. One of the men mutters, "Trade you places." The bird flies off. No deal. By mid-morning, the fighter's skin shines with oil and effort. The medic walks the edge of the yard like a bored shepherd, checking for limps and cuts. He sees everything: the bad swing, the lazy stance, the man biting his cheek to hide pain. "Don't be stupid," he says to one who's limping. "You only get one knee." The lanista laughs. "Tell that to the lions." Then comes the hardest drill, the circle. They form a ring, shields up. One man stands in the middle. Everyone else takes turns attacking. He has to block, twist, survive. It's not fair. It's not meant to be. The lanista says it builds focus. The men say it builds bruises. When it's the fighter's turn, he steps into the ring. The world goes quiet, then explodes. A strike from the left, block. A thrust from behind, twist, sand sprays, sweat blinds, another hit to the ribs, grunt. He loses his breath, finds it again, keeps moving. By the end, his arms feel like stone. His lungs are fire, but he's still standing. The lanista nods. "Not bad, Barley Man. Not bad at all." The Thracian claps him on the shoulder. "You live another day." That's the plan. They rest against the wall, gulping water that tastes faintly of wood and iron. Someone jokes, "You could sell this sweat and call it Roman perfume." Another says, "Only if you hate the person you sell it to." While they rest, the lanista gathers the rookies. He points at the weapons on the rack. "Every style has a reason," he says. "Rome loves balance." He picks up the Murmillo shield. This, defense and weight, good for show. The crowd likes big armor. He taps it. You sweat, they cheer. He lifts the retiarius net. This, speed and surprise. The crowd loves a chase. He tosses it. It tangles around a post. Or a comedy. The rookies laugh nervously. He lifts the Thrax sword. This one's tricky. Short blade, fast temper. Don't blink or it'll cut your nose off. He grins. Not that you need it. A few chuckles. Even he smiles. The fighter listens, but his mind drifts. He remembers the first time he held a sword. Years ago, not here, not like this. Back then, it was for pride, for his village. Now, it's just survival. He tightens his grip. The wood feels solid, simple. He likes simple things. Suddenly, a horn sounds from inside the building. Low and long. Everyone freezes. The lanista looks up, counts the blasts. 1, 2. He exhales. Not today. The men relax. If it had been 3 blasts, someone would be fighting this afternoon. 2 means only a visitor, maybe a sponsor, maybe an official. The gate opens. A man in fine robes walks in, sweating like butter on a pan. He smells like flowers and money. Behind him, a scribe carries a scroll. The lanista bows slightly. Dominus? The man waves a lazy hand. Continue. I'm only watching. He fans himself with the scroll. Hot day for murder practice, he says, smiling. The lanista laughs, but not too much. The fighters pretend not to listen. The rich man watches a pair sparring. He whispers something to his scribe. The scribe nods and writes it down. Probably bets. Probably names. After a few minutes, the visitor leaves, unimpressed. The lanista spits in the sand. Back to work. By noon, the yard is a battlefield of fatigue. Men lie on their backs, staring at the sky. Others soak their heads in water buckets, gasping. The medic walks around again. Alive? He asks one. Mostly. That's good enough. He checks the fighter's wrist again. Still holding? Better. Don't push it. The fighter smiles. That's all we do. The medic sighs. Then keep doing it well. The lanista calls for cool down. Stretch or snap, he warns. They do. Legs, arms, backs, shoulders. It looks almost peaceful. A row of half-naked men moving slow under the sun. For a second, it could be a dance. Then someone cracks a joint loud enough to make the bird fly off again. The lanista shouts, "Lunch! You've earned your beans." A cheer rises, half real, half exhausted. As they walk off, the sound of the yard fades. The thud of wood, the shuffle of feet, the sigh of armor, it all melts into one hum. The song of survival. That's the real sound of the ludus, not glory, not rage, just the steady rhythm of men trying to stay alive long enough to hear the next horn. In the corner, the old storyteller wipes his brow with a rag. He says softly, "Every day, same noise." But when it stops, he doesn't finish. He doesn't have to. The fighter nods. When it stops, someone's gone. Exactly, the old man says. Then he grins. Now go get your beans before someone eats them. The fighter laughs and heads inside. The gate stays open for a moment, creaking in the breeze. The sand glows gold. Somewhere, deep beneath the arena, lions shift in their cages, restless. They don't know it yet, but soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, the sound of the yard will move to the big stage, and the song will be louder and shorter. But for now, it's just training. For now, the men live. For now, the sand remembers. Lunch is done. The air feels heavy, like the sun itself wants a nap. Even the lanista looks slower, his shouts now half yawns. For a little while, the ludus breathes in peace. Men stretch under shade, wiping sweat with rough linen. A few sit by the water trough, dipping hands and talking in low voices. No one laughs too loud. When you live by a sword, Silence feels like a friend. The fighter sits by the wall, legs out, bowl empty. He watches a beetle crawl across the sand. The beetle moves like it has all the time in the world. Lucky thing. Beside him, the Thracian snores, head against his shield. His helmet sits upside down in the dirt, a sleeping bowl. Every few breaths, he twitches like he's fighting dreams instead of men. Across the yard, the medic works on a man's shoulder, humming a song that sounds like a sad lullaby. The smell of herbs drifts through the air, sharp, earthy, almost clean. Time to earn my keep, the medic says, wrapping linen tight. The fighter grins. You could charge extra. I already do, the medic says. I charge pain. Good business. Bad repeat customers. They both chuckle. The lanista walks by, hands behind his back, eyes scanning. He stops near the water barrel and dips his fingers in. He tastes it, nods once. Not poison. Good. Keep drinking. He says it like a joke, but nobody's sure if it is. Then he looks at the fighter. You lasted longer in the circle today. Trying to make it a habit. Don't. Habits make you predictable. Predictable men die fast. He walks away, sandals whispering on the sand. The fighter watches him go. He wonders if the lanista was ever like them, sweating, scared, counting ribs instead of gold coins. The truth is, the lanista used to be a gladiator. Most of them were. The ones who didn't die got promoted. They traded chains for whips, fear for power. Same system, different side. The fighter understands that now. In Rome, everything has a price, even freedom, especially freedom. The medic joins him in the shade. He sits down slow, bones cracking like old wood. You ever think about the cost? He asks. Of what? Staying alive. The fighter shrugs. All the time. Then you're smarter than most. The medic picks at his bandage roll. When I patch a man up, I ask myself, will he thank me tomorrow or curse me? Why curse? Because if he lives, he has to fight again. The fighter nods. That's the strange truth of this place. Every breath costs another tomorrow. A soft clatter breaks the quiet. A coin hits the sand, rolling toward them. It stops at the fighter's foot. He picks it up, dull bronze, scratched, stamped with a faded emperor's face. The Thracian stirs. Hey, that's mine. You drop it? No, I threw it. Bad luck coin. The fighter holds it up. Why? Every time I keep it, I get hit in the head. You sure it's the coin? No, he says, smiling, but it's easier to blame it. The fighter flicks it back. The Thracian catches it, kisses it for luck anyway, then tucks it away. Maybe today it changes its mind. A shout from the gate. The lanista waves a scribe over. The scribe carries a wooden board covered in wax. Reports, the lanista says. The scribe nods and starts reading. 3 bruised ribs, 1 dislocated shoulder, 2 blisters, 1 sprained wrist. Which wrist? Left. The lanista points at the fighter without looking. Still hurts? Less. Good. You fight next week. The fighter blinks. Next week? You heard me. The lanista turns away. That's all the notice he gets. The medic sighs. Well, there goes your rest. Maybe I'll get lucky. You won't. But maybe you'll live. The fighter nods. He's fought before. He knows the routine, the oil, the armor, the march into light that feels like walking into a furnace. He also knows the silence after. The crowd cheers, but the heart hears nothing. Afternoon drills begin. The sun hangs heavy overhead. The men form pairs again. The lanista paces with his whip, not for punishment, but for sound. The crack keeps the rhythm. It reminds them that he's listening. They move slower now, deliberate. Each swing costs energy, and energy is currency here. The lanista says, don't waste movement. Every motion should mean something. He's not wrong. In the arena, wasted motion gets you killed. After drills, the men practice armor maintenance, a kind of quiet ritual. They rub oil into leather, polish bronze, fix straps. Every dent tells a story, some funny, some painful, all remembered. The Thracian holds up his helmet, proud. See this? Scratch, the fighter says. Victory mark. You tripped on your own sword. Still a victory. The other guy laughed so hard I had time to hit him. They both laugh. Sometimes laughter is the only thing you can win. The medic brings out jars of ointment made from crushed herbs and ash. He smells like smoke and mint. He moves through the crowd like a lazy bee, dabbing cuts and wrapping wrists. When he reaches the fighter, he pauses. You heal fast. Fast is my only trick. Keep it. You'll need it. He slaps the bandage once for good luck. It stings. As the sun drops lower, shadows grow long across the sand. The lanista gathers the men in a half circle. He holds up a small purse that jingles. This, he says, shaking it, is why you live. The sound catches everyone's attention. Coins, real ones, bronze, silver if you're lucky. Your fights earn this. The crowd pays to see you bleed. Sponsors pay to see you survive. You make me money, I make you meals. That's the deal. He tosses the purse up and catches it. Some of you will win your freedom. Most of you won't. But if you live long enough, you might buy one good meal, one warm night, maybe one wooden sword when you retire. He smiles thinly. Survive and you get to dream. Die and you save me dinner. The men don't laugh. Not because it's cruel, but because it's true. After he leaves, the whispers start. How many fights till freedom? 10, if you're lucky. 20, if you're cursed. None, if your sponsor forgets your name. The fighter knows the math. He's fought 6 times. Won 4, lost 2. He's still breathing, which counts as profit. Later, in the washroom, a stone room with water trickling through shallow basins, the men rinse off the day. The water's cold enough to make teeth chatter. They splash it anyway, laughing through the shock. The fighter scrubs sand off his arms, watching the red swirl away. The Thracian leans beside him. You ever think we're the lucky ones? The fighter snorts. Lucky? Yeah, we eat, we train, we live. Out there, he nods toward the city. They starve and pay to watch us. The fighter thinks about it. Maybe. But I'd trade your kind of luck for theirs. Even with empty pockets, even with full lungs. Night edges closer. The cook lights torches near the kitchen, their flames licking the dark. The smell of stew fills the yard. Beans again, but thicker this time. Men drift toward it like moths. The lanista eats alone at a small table, counting coins between bites. The medic joins him sometimes, though not tonight. The two talk about costs, injuries, supplies. Every bandage has a price. Every life has a value. The lanista looks up once, eyes on the fighters, eating by torchlight. He doesn't smile. He just nods, as if approving his own math. The fighter sits with the Thracian and the old storyteller. They eat slow. The stew is hot, salty, a gift. The old man says, every bowl costs someone something. What do you mean? The Thracian asks. Every bite you take means someone else went hungry. Every day you live means someone else didn't. Balance. He stirs his bowl, staring into it like it might answer back. The fighter says, so what do we owe them? Nothing, the old man says. Just a good story. After dinner, the medic walks by with a lantern. He stops when he sees the fighter. Your match next week. You'll need to pick a weapon. The lanista wants to test something. What kind of something? He shrugs. Something that bleeds. The fighter nods. Then I'll do what I always do. What's that? Try not to die. The medic chuckles. a strategy that never goes out of style. The torches flicker as night swallows the yard. Men head to their cells, quiet now. Some pray, some brag about past fights to hide fear. Some just lie down and let the dark hold them. The fighter lingers for a moment. He looks up at the stars. Rome's glow hides most of them, but a few still shine through. He wonders if any of them ever watched a man swing a sword and thought, "That's living." He smiles to himself. Maybe the stars are just as bored as the crowd. Before he turns in, he passes the gate. The guard leans on a spear, half asleep. The fighter nods. Quiet night. The guard shrugs. For now. He taps the iron gate with his hand. It's cold. It always is. But tonight it feels heavier, like it knows his name. He whispers, "See you tomorrow." The gate doesn't answer. Gates never do. The price of survival isn't gold or fame. It's another sunrise, another fight, another story written in the sand. And the sand remembers. Rome wakes like it's stretching a giant arm. The city hums behind the ludus walls, carts rolling, merchants shouting, sandals slapping stone. Inside, the fighters stir from their bunks. Another day, same dust, same drills, same dream. But something's different. There's a new energy in the air, the kind that creeps under your skin. The lanista is walking faster. The medic is counting more than usual. Even the cook is whistling. And that never means good news. The ludus has guests today. Rich ones. You can always tell by the smell. Too much perfume, not enough purpose. When the rich visit, it means one thing. Someone's life is about to be sold. The fighter stands by the yard gate with the others. They wait in a rough line, armor polished, skin glistening with oil. He hates the oil. It makes him feel like a roasted chicken on display. The lanista paces in front of them, whispering orders. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't blink too much. Don't scratch anything. Especially that. Someone snickers. He whirls on them. You think this is funny? These people pay for your food. Smile like you have teeth worth feeding. The lanista adjusts his tunic, then nods to the gate guard. Let them in. The doors creak open, and sunlight pours in like gold syrup. 3 visitors walk through, 2 men, 1 woman, all silk, rings, and arrogance. They walk slow, eyes scanning the fighters like shoppers at a market. One man points with his fan. That one looks strong. What's his record? The lanista smiles too wide. 4 wins, 2 losses, 1 miracle. The man laughs. Perfect. I like the sound of luck. The woman barely looks at the men. She's too busy fanning herself. Why do they smell like that? She asks. The lanista says, like victory. She wrinkles her nose. Smells more like soup. The visitors move down the line. They poke at muscles, lift helmets, make small notes. The fighters stare straight ahead, pretending they're statues. When they reach the fighter, the lanista steps forward. This one's a murmillo. Good footwork, smart with a shield. The rich man tilts his head. He looks plain. The lanista nods. Plain men live longer. Pretty ones bleed faster. That gets a chuckle. Does he have a name? Names are for poets, the lanista says. But the crowd calls him the quiet one. Why? Because he's still alive. The rich man grins. Then I'll sponsor his next fight. He hands the scribe a pouch of coins. Make sure he wins. I'd hate to waste my money. The lanista bows. So would I. The fighter says nothing. He just nods once, not to the man, but to himself. Another fight means another day to prove he exists. When the visitors leave, the ludus exhales. The lanista turns to his men. Congratulations. You're officially property that appreciates in value. He waves them away. Go wash the smell of rich people off before I start sneezing coins. Later, in the shade, the Thracian leans against his shield. So, the quiet one, huh? The fighter shrugs. could have been worse. They could have called me the guy who trips, or the guy who screams in Latin. They laugh. The Thracian scratches his chin. Funny thing, though. You're in the crowd's mouth now. That's how it starts. How what starts? The myth. Myths are born easy in Rome. A few good fights, a lucky story, a pretty death. That's all it takes. The crowd loves heroes almost as much as they love watching them die. Some fighters lean into it. They paint symbols on their shields, carve slogans into their helmets. One man even brings his own banner that says, "Mercy is for the weak." He dies in his second match. The banner outlives him. The fighter doesn't care about fame, but he knows what it can do. Fame buys better meals. Fame gets you a doctor faster. Fame might even get you a pardon. Still, fame is dangerous. Once the crowd loves you, they start expecting things. Flair, blood, miracles. And when you disappoint them, they cheer for your death twice as loud. That afternoon, during training, the lanista calls out, "You, quiet one, front of the line." The fighter steps forward, heart thudding. "You've got a sponsor now," the lanista says. "Means you fight for money. Means you train like it's worth it." He tosses a heavier sword. "No wood today." The fighter catches it, metal, cold, and alive. He tests the weight, feels good, feels dangerous. The lanista circles him. People don't pay to see skill. They pay to see stories. You want to survive? Learn to give them one. He points to the other fighters. Each of you is a myth waiting to sell itself. Don't just fight, perform. The Thracian grins. "So, dance and stab?" The lanista smacks him with his stick. "Exactly. But not in that order." The fighter trains harder than usual. He practices slow swings, smooth blocks, short breaths. The lanista corrects him again and again. Don't think, react. Don't chase, control. Don't flinch. The crowd smells fear faster than blood. Every correction feels like a bruise, but he takes them. Bruises fade, death doesn't. By sunset, the yard glows orange. The medic walks out, carrying a basket of bandages. He watches the fighter land a perfect strike on the palace. "Good," he says. "You almost look like you enjoy it." "Almost." The medic smirks. "Try to survive your fame. It's deadlier than the blade." After training, they rest on the steps by the wall. The air cools, the sky softens. Someone strums a small lyre, out of tune, but no one minds. The old storyteller joins them, sitting with a sigh. He looks at the fighter and grins. "So you're the quiet one now, eh? Careful. Names stick harder than scars." The fighter laughs. "It's not like I chose it. Doesn't matter. The crowd chose it. That's stronger." He leans back. "You know what I was called once?" "What?" "The Laughing Wolf." The men perk up. "Why?" "Because I laughed before every fight. Scared the crowd, scared the men. Worked every time." "Did it help you win?" He grins. "No. Lost half of them, but I looked good doing it." They all laugh. When the laughter fades, the storyteller grows quiet. You ever wonder what happens when the cheering stops? The fighter nods. All the time. "That's when the myth dies," the old man says softly. "The man's already gone. The myth just doesn't know it yet." He stares at the sky, eyes reflecting the fading light. Rome forgets fast. One day you're a hero. The next, your name's used to sell bread. He chuckles dryly. That's the real game, not survival. Memory. The fighter thinks about that as the torches are lit. Maybe he doesn't want to be a myth. Maybe he just wants to last long enough to tell his own story. But he knows how Rome works. You don't get to pick what you become. You only pick how long you stand before they turn you into something else. Later that night, the lanista calls a few men to the office, a small room lined with scrolls and armor pieces. The fighter is one of them. The lanista unrolls a parchment. It's a list of upcoming matches. Next to each name is a note. Crowd favorite, strong left, slow recovery. He points to one line. Your opponent, Varro. Retiaris, fast hands. Likes to show off, thinks too much. He looks up. Kill that habit before it kills you. The fighter nods. When? 2 days. The lanista leans back. Get ready. And try not to ruin your nickname. Outside, the night hums with crickets and faint cheers from a tavern down the street. The city doesn't sleep. It just changes shifts. The fighter walks through the empty yard. He sees his reflection in a water trough, tired eyes, cracked lips, a scar that catches the torchlight. He looks at himself and says softly, I'm not a myth yet. The reflection doesn't answer. It never does. Back in the cell, the Thracian whispers through the bars. Hey, quiet one. What's the plan? Win. Always the simple answer. It's the only one that matters. The Thracian grins in the dark. Then I'll bet my bad coin on you. Don't. I don't want to die that unlucky. They both laugh, the kind that keeps nightmares away for one more night. The ludus goes quiet. Only the wind moves, carrying the smell of dust and old blood. In the distance, the Colosseum stands under the moon, huge, hollow, waiting. It looks like a mouth. It looks like a promise. And inside that promise, men turn into stories. Stories turn into myths. And myths, they forget the men who made them. But not yet, not tonight. Tonight, the quiet one still breathes, still dreams, still waits for the next sunrise that will turn him into something more or less. Either way, the sand remembers. The ludus has thick walls. They hold in sweat, work, and the smell of oil. But sound slips through everything. Today the city is loud. It buzzes like a hive. Some festival maybe, or payday, or just Rome being Rome, always busy, always hungry. The fighter sits in the shade with his back to warm stone. Training is done for now. His arms hum, his ribs ache, his wrist is wrapped neat. He closes his eyes and just listens. Outside, a donkey complains. A woman laughs so hard she coughs. A vendor sings about figs as if figs can fix your life. The fighter smiles. He could listen to this all day. Beside him, the Thracian picks at a scab and sighs. Smells like bread, he says. Smells like figs, the fighter says. A pause. Smells like not here, the Thracian adds. They sit with that thought. Not here. What a sweet smell. A guard clanks by with keys on his belt, nose in the air. Don't drool on my yard, he says. We're just breathing, the Thracian answers. Do it quietly. He keeps walking like the city also belongs to him. Another sound sneaks in, a flute from somewhere high, thin, and wobbly, like the player is learning. The note bends, squeaks, then finds itself. The fighter tilts his head, following the tune along the wall. He can almost see the roof where a kid sits cross-legged, cheeks puffed, trying again and again. Play it right, little bird, he whispers. No one hears him, except the wall. The wall hears everything. A servant steps into the yard with a bundle of cloth and a small leather bag. Messages, he calls, and bread. Don't mix them up. Men gather fast, not too fast. The lanista hates scrambling, but fast enough to show they care. The servant isn't from the ludus, he's from the city. He smells like streets and sunlight and a job that ends at night. He opens the bag and pulls out folded wax tablets, a few scratched notes, and one small wooden toy, a horse on tiny wheels. Who's got family near the river? He asks. Hands go up. He squints, checks a name, gives a tablet to a thin man with a braided cord around his neck. The man takes it like it might crack. His lips move as he reads. He leans against the wall. He smiles. Then he sits down and cries very quietly. No one stares. In the ludus, tears are as normal as sweat. You learn to keep your eyes on your own bowl. The servant works his way down the line. Message from a baker's wife. Message from someone who says she's not your wife. Laughter, then a cough. He holds up the wooden toy. Who's got a son named Timo? A big Gaul with a broken front tooth raises his hand like a child in school. The servant rolls the toy across the sand. It stops at the man's foot. He lifts it, thumb on the tiny wheel, eyes shining. Still small, he says to no one. Still playing. He tucks the horse under his belt like treasure. The lanista watches from a distance, arms crossed, face unreadable. He allows messages for the same reason he allows water. Men fight better when a piece of them lives outside. The servant reaches the fighter. Quiet one? The fighter nods. The man hands him a wax tablet with a bit of red string. From a woman named Livia, he says. Says she remembers you from the market. The Thracian whistles. Market, huh? The fighter gives him a look. I used to buy onions. Is that what the kids call it now? Shut up, the fighter says, but he's smiling. He opens the tablet. The lines are simple, slow, like someone careful with letters. I saw your name on the list. If it's you, I hope you eat. If it's not you, I hope the real you eats too. There's work at the warehouse, daylight only. I'll leave a loaf by the back door, third post, after sunset. Don't die before bread. He reads it twice, then a third time in case the words change and say, come home. They don't. He rubs his thumb over the edge of the wax. Livia, he says softly. The Thracian leans. Good letter. It's bread. Same thing. Beyond the wall, kids run past, feet slapping stone. A boy shouts, I'm the hero. A girl answers, I'm the emperor. A smaller one yells, I'm a lion, and tries biting someone. They shriek and scatter, and the lion laughs with them. The fighter closes his eyes and imagines being a boy again. Skinny legs, sunburned nose, no armor to polish, only a stick sword and grand plans. He opens his eyes and looks at his hands, scarred knuckles, rope veins, callus on the thumb from the shield rim. Boyhood is a country with no road back. Near the gate, two vendors argue the way vendors do. Loud, fast, and half for the sale. Best olives in the district. Not true. Mine are kissed by Apollo. Your olives are kissed by goats. Then the goats have excellent taste. The fighters grin. Rome argues like a sport. You don't need to win. You just need to be loud and funny. A scent rides the breeze. Fresh bread, sharp olives, a whisper of roasted meat. The yard goes quiet. Stomachs remember they're empty again. Cruel, the Thracian mutters. The fighter nods. Very cruel. A courier in green livery steps in, all bounce and shine. He carries a small scroll tied with purple thread, expensive. He hands it to the lanista with a bow. From your patron, he chirps. The lanista breaks the seal, reads, then folds it slow. Good news? The medic asks. Always depends who you are, the lanista says. He turns to the men. Listen, they circle up. 3 exhibitions tomorrow at the garden of Marcus Varro, he calls. Light sparring, lots of watchers, coins for smiles. No blood unless they tip heavy. A few groans, a few cheers. Exhibitions mean less risk and more staring. Some men hate being looked at. Some live for it. The lanista adds, sponsors will be there. Stand tall. And if someone hands you a fig, try not to eat it with your whole face. The men laugh. He lets them, then waves them off. When the circle breaks, the old storyteller shuffles over, rubbing his knee. Exhibitions, he says, are where rumors are born. What kind? The fighter asks. the kind that change your name. He winks. Better get a good haircut. I don't have hair. Then practice your stare. They sit together, listening to the city again. Not all whispers are good. Some drag like chains. From the far corner of the yard, two men speak in voices meant to hide. Did you hear about Lucius? The tall one? Yeah. Word is he lost a fight at the small arena by the baths. Sponsor was angry. What happened? Sold. To who? Who do you think? They both look toward the Colosseum, even though it isn't there. It's always there. Big shows, one says. Big animals, the other says. They go quiet. In Rome, everything moves uphill. Debt, names, bodies. If you're unlucky, your next stop after a small stage is the biggest one of all. The crowd is louder there. The silence after is louder too. Late afternoon turns the wall gold. The medic brings out a small basket of dried herbs and hangs it on a peg. Burn this before sleep, he tells the guard. Keeps coughs quiet. Smoke makes me sneeze, the guard grumbles, then sneeze softer. A shadow crosses the gate. A woman stands there with a little girl. The girl peeks in, eyes wide at the helmets and swords. The woman whispers to the guard. Coins change hands. The guard steps aside for a breath and lets the girl look. She waves at the fighters. Some wave back. The Thracian makes a small face and the girl giggles. The woman pulls her away gently. Say thank you, she tells the child. Thank you, the girl sings. They vanish into the crowd. For a moment, the yard feels lighter. As the sun tilts, a young priest passes in white, swinging a small censer. Smoke curls through the gate like a ghost. He prays for the city, health, order, good harvest, calm seas. He does not say the word mercy. Maybe that one costs extra. The Thracian watches him go. Do the gods ever visit here? The fighter shrugs. If they do, they don't sign the guest book. A murmur grows near the door to the dorms. A clerk from the city sits at a table, stamping tablets with a seal. Registration day. Names, origins, marks. The state likes lists. One by one, fighters step up, say their names, and get pressed into wax. When it's the fighter's turn, the clerk does not look up. Name? Quiet one, the scribe nearby answers for him. The clerk sniffs. That's not a name. It is now, the scribe says. The clerk sighs and scribbles it anyway. Any changes? Scars? Missing parts? The fighter says, not yet. Try to keep it that way. Ink is expensive. He moves on to the next man. Another line, another life, flattened into letters. As evening cool settles, the sounds outside soften. Shops close. A drunk sings a song about a girl named Portia and a goat. Hard to tell which one he loves more. A chorus from a tavern carries a rough cheer, then fades. The servant from earlier slips back in, quick as a cat. He sets a small sack near the doorway and taps it twice. Bread, he whispers to the guard. Third post. The guard nods. He doesn't ask questions he doesn't want to answer. The fighter finds the sack after lights are low. There's a loaf inside, still warm. He breaks it in half and hands a piece to the Thracian without a word. The Thracian doesn't ask. He bites, eyes closing. Oh, he says, soft as a prayer. They eat slow, like time might stretch to watch them. Livia? The Thracian asks, mouth full. Yeah. She married? Probably, the fighter says. You going to write back? He wipes crumbs from his fingers. Tomorrow? What will you say? Thank you for bread. That's a good letter, the Thracian says. Night thickens. Torches pop along the wall. The yard turns to a pool of gold inside a sea of dark. Men drift toward sleep. Others sit awake, staring at nothing and everything. From somewhere high, that little flute tries again. The note is cleaner now, braver. It climbs, wobbles, lands. The fighter smiles into the dark. "Good," he whispers. "Keep going." He stands and touches the wall with his palm. It's warm still, holding the day. On the other side, bakers cooling loaves, mothers telling stories, children pretending to be lions and emperors and heroes who never die. Inside, men with wrapped wrists and careful hearts, men who fight, eat, sleep, wake, and listen for a world that used to be theirs. He closes his eyes. He can almost taste the city air. Dust, spice, smoke, and sweet fruit skins. He can almost walk those streets. Almost. A breeze sneaks through the gate and lifts the hairs on his arms. It smells like figs and rain and the kind of hope that doesn't brag. The Thracian clears his throat. "What do you hear?" "Life," the fighter says. "Is it coming in?" "Maybe," he says. "Maybe it's just passing by." Before lights out, the lanista speaks from the doorway. "Tomorrow, drills at dawn. Exhibitions at noon. No accidents. Sponsors don't like blood on their gardens." A pause. "And if you hear things beyond the wall, remember, Rome sings for everyone, even you, even now." He leaves. The guard snuffs one torch, then another. Shadows climb like vines. The fighter lies on his bunk. He holds the wax tablet from Livia like a coin that might buy a better dream. He whispers the words again. "Don't die before bread." He smiles. "I'll try," he says into the dark. Outside, the city rolls over and sighs. A cart rattles one last time. A dog barks and stops. The small flute plays one soft note and then sleeps. Inside, the men breathe. The wall listens. The night keeps its secrets. And somewhere, not far away, the Colosseum waits, a huge stone ear pressed to the ground, hungry for tomorrow's noise. For now, only whispers pass through. Whispers of bread, whispers of letters, whispers of names that might matter again. The ludus sleeps, the city hums, and the sand remembers. The sun isn't up yet, but the noise is. Boots, armor, voices, orders. Something big is coming. You can feel it. Today is no ordinary training day. Today, they march. The lanista stands in the center of the yard, scroll in hand, reading names like a priest calling souls to judgment. Varro, Gallus, the quiet one. Each name is a key turning in a lock. Each man steps forward, heart pounding, eyes fixed. The fighter's wrist feels tight inside its bandage. He flexes it once, quiet. The Thracian nudges him. "See, I told you your coin wasn't that unlucky." The fighter smirks. "Yet." The lanista lowers the scroll. "Listen up. You've been picked for the exhibition at Marcus Varro's gardens. That means crowds, coin, and people who smell better than you. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. And for the love of Jupiter, don't bleed on their statues. Laughter, thin but real." He continues. "You'll walk in formation through the market district to show Rome what their money feeds. Stand tall, move slow, be terrifying but polite." He grins. "Think of it as a parade with extra fear. They polish armor till it shines like molten sun. The medic checks every strap, every bandage. Don't faint," he warns. "Rich people hate surprises." The cook hands out bread and dried figs for the march. "Eat slow," he says. "You throw up on a senator, we all die." Soon, the iron gate opens. The sound alone wakes the birds from the roof. Light spills through, pale and gold. Beyond it lies Rome, loud, alive, endless. The lanista raises his arm. "Move," and the gladiators step forward. Sand crunches, chains jingle, helmets glint. The gate swallows them and spits them into the city. The streets explode with noise. Vendors shout, dogs bark. People stop mid-step to stare. A boy on a cart yells, "Gladiators!" His father hushes him, but not before sneaking a glance himself. The men march in two lines, shields glimmering, swords resting on shoulders. They move slow, heavy, steady, part army, part animal show. The crowd parts like water. Some cheer, some spit. Most just stare, unsure whether to be afraid or impressed. Rome loves a good spectacle. Even walking to a garden becomes theater. Perfume and sweat mix in the air, a strange kind of holy smell. The city shows off its beauty and its cruelty at the same time, both polished to a shine. A group of children follows behind, pretending to fight with sticks. "Look, I'm the quiet one kid shouts, waving a stick at another. The fighter hears and almost laughs. Almost. The Thracian leans toward him and mutters, "You're famous now." Tiny use everywhere. "Lucky them," the fighter says. "They don't have to eat barley." They pass under a marble arch carved with victories, ships, armies, chained captives. The lanista gestures up. "See that?" Rome never stops bragging. A guard chuckles. Bragging's cheaper than mercy. The lanista gives him a look that says, "Don't get smart." At the fountain near the forum, a noblewoman drops a coin into the water and whispers a wish. Then she sees the fighters. She gasps, clutching her pearls, half fear, half fascination. Her husband laughs. "Don't worry, my love. They only bite when told." The woman glances at the fighter's eyes and shivers. For a moment, she sees not a showpiece, but a man. Then she looks away. People always look away. At the corner by the bakery, the smell of fresh loaves hits like a dream. The fighter's stomach growls so loud the Thracian hears. "Bread again?" He nods. "Bread forever." The baker comes out, wiping his hands on his apron. He sees them and hesitates. Then he tosses a roll toward the group. It bounces off a shield and lands in the dust. No one moves. The lanista glares. "Keep marching." They do. The roll sits in the street, small and perfect. A dog trots up and takes it. "Better him than us," the Thracian mutters. As they cross the bridge to the gardens, music drifts down. Pipes, drums, laughter. The world beyond the gate looks like paradise. Tall trees, marble fountains, people dressed like gods pretending not to care. Guards open the gates wide. Inside, a crowd of nobles waits beneath silk awnings. Tables of fruit and wine line the grass. A poet recites lines about courage and beauty. Nobody listens. Everyone watches the gladiators. The lanista claps his hands. Form up. Eyes front. No scratching. They stand in a half circle before the crowd. The sun hits their armor just right. Blinding. Glorious. To the nobles, they look like heroes. To each other, they just look tired. A senator in purple raises a cup. To the defenders of Rome. The crowd cheers half-heartedly, mouths full of grapes. The lanista bows slightly, smiling like he owns them all. Then come the orders. March once around the garden. Show the weapons. Lift the shields. The fighters obey. The nobles applaud, slow and lazy. One of the women leans to her friend. They look so strong. "Strong but doomed," the other says, sipping wine. That's the charm. They laugh softly. After the parade, the men rest by a marble pool. Servants bring trays of olives, bread, and watered wine, leftovers, but still better than barley. The Thracian holds up a grape like it's a diamond. "Finally," he says, "real food for fake heroes." He tosses it in his mouth. Worth every bruise. The fighter sits quietly, watching the reflections of the nobles ripple in the pool. They look like painted dolls on water, perfect but thin. He wonders if they ever feel fear, if they ever wake up sweating in the night, hearts racing, praying for one more day. Probably not. Their battles are on paper, not in sand. After the meal, the lanista gathers them again. "Showtime," he says. Two fighters step forward for a mock duel. Not to the death, just enough to thrill the crowd. They circle on the grass, swords clashing with hollow clangs. The nobles clap, cheering the drama more than the skill. The senator calls out, "Make it real." The lanista bows. "As you wish." He nods once. The next strike draws blood. Just a scratch, but it glints red in the sunlight. The crowd gasps, then cheers. "Marvelous," the senator cries. The lanista hides a sigh. He knows the rule. Rome loves a little blood, but only someone else's. When the show ends, coins rain into baskets. The lanista smiles thinly. He'll count everyone later. The nobles toast each other, proud of their courage for watching from a safe distance. A poet writes a line about valor born in chains. No one will remember it tomorrow. The fighter wipes his sword and looks at the grass where the drop of blood fell. It's already gone, sunk into the soil. He wonders if the ground remembers, like the sand does. The walk back feels longer. The crowd doesn't follow this time. The kids are gone, the baker's busy, the streets a little quieter. The Thracian hums a tune under his breath. "Victory song?" the fighter asks. "No, just something to fill the silence." He hums louder. A few others join in. The sound grows into a rough, tired choir. Even the lanista doesn't stop them. For a few streets, Rome listens. Maybe it even feels sorry. Then a trumpet blares somewhere and the spell breaks. By the time they reach the ludus, the light has softened. The iron gate closes behind them with its usual sigh. The yard smells like dust again. The city feels far away already. The lanista counts the baskets of coins, eyes gleaming. "Good work," he says. "You didn't embarrass me." "Much." He tosses a small pouch to the medic. "For ointment. Or wine, whatever fixes them faster." The medic nods, already unrolling bandages. The fighter sits and stretches his shoulders. The Thracian plops beside him, still humming. "Think they liked us?" "They liked the blood," the fighter says. "Same thing." The medic kneels beside them. "Show me the wrist," he says. The fighter does, still stiff, but holding. "Good," the medic says. "If it breaks, I charge double." He moves to the next man. The Thracian leans back, eyes closed. "Tomorrow, we train again?" "Always," the fighter says. "Good," the Thracian mutters. "I hate peace." Later, when the torches burn low, the lanista locks away the coins. He stops by the yard and looks at his men sleeping. For a moment, he almost smiles. Then he shakes his head. "Parade of flesh," he murmurs, and Rome claps. He turns, the sound of his sandals fading into the dark. The fighter wakes once in the night. He hears laughter beyond the wall, faint, fading, free. He closes his eyes and tries to remember what it felt like to laugh like that. It's harder every day. Still, he smiles in the dark. He made it another day. He earned another breath, another piece of bread, another story whispered into the sand. And somewhere in the city, someone might even say his name. Maybe a child, maybe a stranger, doesn't matter. It means he's still real. He rolls over, blanket rough against his skin. The sound of the gate settles into silence. The yard sleeps. Rome hums. The day is over. The parade is done. But the sand remembers. Down here, day doesn't matter. There is no sky, only beams and rope and the breath of many things that do not want to be here. They call it the belly, the guts of the great arena. Wooden ribs, stone spine, and nerves made of men. The fighters stand in a row along a narrow passage. Torches hiss. Oil drips from iron lamps and makes the floor shine like wet bark. Somewhere close, a lion coughs. It sounds like a big man clearing his throat. Then the claws tap wood. Everyone goes still. The lanista moves past, counting heads. Helmets on. Straps tight. "No hero tricks," he says. His voice is soft down here, like even sound needs permission. The fighter flexes his bandaged wrist and tests his shield grip. The leather is warm from his hand. His mouth is dry. He swallows and tastes metal anyway. The Thracian leans close. You smell that? What? Fear. Yours or mine? Both. They try to laugh. The laugh gets lost in the beams. Beneath the floor, the arena is a maze. Tunnels, ramps, small rooms with bars, hidden doors, and big wooden wheels that creak when men push them. Slaves move through it like ants with orders. Pull, hold, gate. The words bounce from wall to wall. A handler in a leather vest walks by with a bundle of meat on a hook. A hyena follows at his heels, head low, eyes bright like coins. Another handler drags a spotted cat by 2 chains. The cat does not agree, but goes anyway. They pass a cage where boars snort and bang their heads on the slats. The smell of animals, hay, and old blood is thick, sticky, and honest. No perfume here, only truth. The fighter keeps his eyes forward. Look too long, and the ground seems to move. Look too long, and you begin to think about what else moves down here. Above, the crowd is already loud. You hear feet stamp. You hear the high notes of children and the low river of men. A horn calls, then another answers. Dust sifts through the boards like dry snow. The lanista stops the line under a square of light where a trap door is set. A platform waits below it. An elevator, the kind that rises when men turn the great capstan. He points at the fighter and 2 others. You 3, first lift for the salute. Make it clean. The Thracian squeezes the fighter's shoulder. Smile for your fans, quiet one. I will if I see any. They wait. Waiting is the hardest part. It stretches like old leather. Time is a slow animal that stares back. A priest in white steps into the tunnel with a small dish of salt and a sprig of green. He flicks water at the fighters, murmuring words about courage and favor. The water hits the fighter's cheek and runs cold to his jaw. He shivers and pretends it is the weather. The priest touches his forehead. Do you believe? He asks. I believe in breath, the fighter says. The priest nods. That will do. He moves on, leaving a trail of smoke from a little pot of burning resin. The smell cuts the stink of beasts for a moment. Then the stink wins. It always does. Against the far wall, a small team checks the machines. Ropes slide through pulleys. Pins slip in and out of holes the size of a fist. A boy pulls a lever, and a trapdoor jumps open, then shuts with a heavy clack. He grins like he just tamed a dragon. His boss smacks the back of his head. Careful, he says. That's somebody's life. The fighter watches the rigs with a steady eye. He respects ropes. Ropes hold the world together when men can't. He also watches where he puts his feet. Between the beams, dark gaps hide short falls and long trouble. A man once stepped wrong and vanished like a coin through a grate. They still tell that story to new boys, so they learn to look down as much as up. A drum beats above. It is slow and grand, the kind of beat that makes a city stand up straighter. The lanista turns to the 3 on the platform. Ready your salute, he says. Blades high. No shaking. You shake, I make you carry sand with your teeth. The fighter adjusts his helmet strap and lifts his sword. His arm feels heavier than it should. He rolls his shoulder once. Quiet. The Thracian taps the rim of his shield with 2 fingers, an old dockhand sign that means steady seas. The fighter nods. Steady. The men at the capstan set their shoulders. Turn, a foreman cries. The wheel groans and the ropes tighten, humming. The platform rises so smooth it feels like a trick. The square of light grows brighter, whiter, hotter. The last thing the fighter sees before the floor swallows him is the lanista's face in the shadows. A short nod. Not pride, not love. Approval, the dry kind. Then light. They rise into noise. Heat hits like a slap. The sun sits high and mean, turning helmets into little ovens. The crowd is a wall of voices and color, tunics, wreaths, fans, the flash of gold. The sand is bright as a shout. For one long breath, the fighter can't hear his own heart. Then he can. It bangs like a drum inside a clay pot. He raises his sword. The crowd answers with a wave of sound that rolls over him and keeps going to the sky. "Valet," the herald cries. "Salute the games." They salute, blade up, chin up, eyes forward. The emperor is not here today. A sponsor sits in the high seat instead, fat and pleased. He lifts a hand, accepts the salute like a god taking tax. Wine sloshes on his robe. A servant wipes it before he knows he spilled. The drum stops. The platform drops again. Down. Dark swallows him a second time. Eyes blink and fail. Torchlight swims back slow. The crowd fades to a muffled roar. The air cools. He breathes. The platform bumps the stop and the ropes slack. Men step off, legs a little shaky from the sudden change. It happens to everyone. Even old fighters wobble after a rise and fall. The ground feels unfaithful. "Good," the lanista says, checking faces. No one puked on Rome. My heart sings. He points down another tunnel. "That way. Wait for your call. Retiarius first, then you, Murmillo." The fighter nods and follows the narrow hall to a holding pen, half cage, half room. A barred window looks into another lane where handlers coax two bears to lie down on a cart. The cart has teeth marks. A boy runs past with a bucket of sand and trips. The sand spills like dry rain. He freezes, waiting for the slap. The foreman just shoves another bucket into his hands. "Move." The boy moves. Down here, mistakes are a kind of tax. You pay and keep going. Time pools again. The retiarius, Varro, the one the lanista warned about, leans against the wall, face calm, eyes busy. He tosses his net in a slow loop and catches it back like he's playing catch with fate. His trident rests beside him, points wrapped in leather. He nods at the fighter. "First time in the big belly?" "First time this week." Varro smiles. "Keep your shield high when I'm up there. People throw things when they drink." He tests a knot in his net. "You know the rule? Don't chase," the fighter says. "Right," Varro says. "Make me come to you." Nets hate patience. They stand together without saying more. Words get heavy down here. Save breath for the sun. On the far side, a tiny door opens, and a man with a chalkboard steps in. He writes quick strokes, shows it to a herald, who nods and runs off toward a stair that climbs to the light. The chalk man marks another board, hands it to a beast handler, who grunts and starts hauling a gate. It is a dance of signs, wood for men, chalk for plans, rope for results. Above, the crowd swells and drops, like a sea pushed by wind. A woman laughs loud, a child cries, a dozen men start a chant and stomp until the boards shake dust into the fighter's hair. Varro blows out a slow breath. "Listen to that," he says. "What?" "That's what coins sound like when they're excited." A runner arrives, panting. "Retiarius," he calls. "Now." Varro nods, grabs his trident, sets the net on his shoulder like a fisherman heading to a quiet lake that lies about being quiet. He looks back once. "Remember," he says to the fighter, "nets hate patience." "Got it." "Good. Don't let my mother see me lose." He grins and vanishes into the light. The fighter waits alone by the gate, except for the sounds that are never alone. A boar snorts in its crate. A pulley squeals and is quieted by oil. Someone far away sings a rough tune to calm a horse. The horse doesn't care about music, but likes the voice. The lanista returns, breath even, eyes sharp. "Your turn soon," he says. He looks at the fighter's bandage. "Still holding?" "Yes." "Good. Keep the shield high. Varro will run you if you chase him. Don't feed the net." "I won't." "And if he gets your legs, drop on him." He hates that. Won't that get me stabbed? The lanista shrugs. Everything gets you stabbed. Pick the stab you like. He claps the fighter's shoulder, light for once. You're ready. It is not love. It is the closest thing this place allows. The runner returns. Murmillo, he calls, voice cracking. Now. The gate ahead lifts on a groan. Cold light draws a line on the floor like a blade. The fighter steps into that blade and stops at the edge. He closes his eyes. He counts 4 breaths. Slow. In, out, in, out. He opens his eyes. Just ahead, a small platform waits, his door up. The capstan crew stands ready, hands on bars. A bell rings above. Once, twice, 3 times. Up, the foreman shouts. The ropes tighten. The platform lifts the fighter toward the square of sky. He rises the height of a man, then a horse, then a house. The boards close below him like lips sealing a promise. Heat, light, noise. The 3 gods of the arena hit him at once. He squints through the helmet slit and sees the sand spread wide like a beach of bones. Across the circle, Varro slides sideways, light on his feet, net ready, trident low. The crowd loves him. Fast fighters make good stories. They cheer his name in little waves. Varro, Varro, Varro. The fighter lifts his shield. A herald cries, Murmillo versus Retiarius. A roll of drums. The stamp of sandals. The chant flips, curious now. Quiet one, someone shouts. Another voice answers, Quiet one. Then more. It is not a wave yet. It is a ripple. Ripples become waves if they live. The referee, a man with a baton and the face of a bored judge, drops his hand. The space between men shrinks. But that is the sun's story. Down here, someone pulls a lever. A cage door slides shut on a bear that didn't get to play. 5 men push a wheel and sweat into their tunics. A boy replaces a pin and ties a knot twice. The priest sits on a beam and bites a fig, lost in thought. The arena has 2 hearts, one above, one below. Both beat, both matter. The fighter feels both hearts as the light burns his shoulders and the crowd pulls at his breath. He hears the net hiss. He steps, but not too far. He waits, but not too long. He is a man between worlds, beast and machine, sun and cellar, roar and whisper. The belly holds him up. The sky dares him to fall. He lifts his sword, and the sand remembers. For a moment, everything stands still. The air itself seems to wait. Then the drum stops, and Rome holds its breath. The Retiarius, Varro, moves first. He always does. Quick steps, toes barely kissing the sand. His net glimmers in the light like silver water. The trident tilts, points dancing. Across from him, the Murmillo, the quiet one, plants his feet. Shield high, sword ready, no wasted movement, no noise. Just the slow rise and fall of breath inside bronze. Varro circles, grinning. Don't blink, quiet one, he calls. The fighter doesn't answer. He doesn't even look at him, only at the space between. That's where fights live. The crowd begins to murmur. They came for blood, but found patience. They shift in their seats, restless, fanning themselves with hands that never held a sword. A child's voice rises over the hum. Make him fall. The crowd laughs. Even the emperor's stand, empty today, seems to smile. Varro flicks his wrist. The net spins, glinting. It misses by a breath, snapping across the sand. The quiet one doesn't chase. He just turns with it, step by step, shield leading. Varro tugs the net back, teeth flashing. You're learning, he says. Slow, teacher, the fighter answers. The crowd laughs again. Even the lanista, watching from the shadow of the tunnel, hides a grin. Talking means life. Dead men stay quiet. Varro lunges, trident low. The quiet one blocks, a solid clang that shakes his wrist but holds. He twists his body, slides left, shoves with the shield. Varro stumbles just a step, just enough. The fighter strikes, not hard, but sharp. The sword kisses Varro's thigh, a thin red line. The crowd gasps. It's not much blood, but blood is blood. They cheer like it's a river. Varro laughs through the sting. "Well aimed," he says. "Lucky swing," the fighter answers. "Don't ruin it by being humble," Varro says. "Rome hates humble." Then he charges. The next minute is blur and thunder. Sand sprays, metal sings, trident slams against shield. Sword snaps forward, back, forward again. The crowd becomes a storm. Some chant, "Varro," others shout, "Quiet one." The names crash together like waves. A woman in the front row stands on her toes, hands to her mouth. A boy on her shoulders beats the air with his fist. Every time a weapon hits, they both flinch and cheer. Varro feints right, then drops low. His net flashes under the shield, wraps, catches. The fighter feels it tighten around his legs. He grunts, tries to step back, but the fibers bite like rope on wet skin. The crowd screams. They love traps. Varro spins the trident for the flourish. He raises it, ready to strike. The fighter remembers the Lanista's words. "If he nets your legs, drop on him." So he does. He falls forward, heavy as a door. His shield crashes into Varro's chest. Varro grunts, trips, loses his balance. The trident hits the sand with a dull thud. The net loosens. The fighter rolls once, free. He comes up fast, sword drawn high. The crowd gasps again, 1,000 sharp breaths. Varro's flat on his back, shieldless, blinking up at the sun. The fighter raises his blade, then stops. He looks to the podium. The sponsor, fat, jeweled, sweating, rises slowly, smiling wide. He points his thumb sideways, the signal for mercy or death. The crowd waits. Chanting starts. "Kill, kill, kill." The Lanista watches, unreadable. Even the medic leans forward, hands gripping the rail. The quiet one lowers his sword. He places it point first into the sand beside Varro's head. Then he steps back and lifts his hand, the gesture for mercy. A roar, not of anger, not quite. More confusion, surprise, something in between. Varro stares up, breathing hard. Then he laughs. He sits up, grabs the fighter's wrist, and raises it. "Mercy," he shouts to the stands. "Mercy given." The crowd explodes again, this time for joy. Mercy is rarer than blood, and they love rare things. The chant changes. "Quiet one, quiet one." It rolls across the arena, a wave the size of Rome. The Lanista sighs with relief. He'll have to smooth things with the sponsor later, but the chant will help. Fame is currency, and the quiet one just got rich. The medic claps his hands once, grinning. "Not dead. My favorite outcome." The herald runs to the center and raises his staff. "Victor, the quiet one." A trumpet sings. The crowd rains coins and wreaths. Little girls throw flowers that land like soft arrows. The fighter picks up one bloom, a violet already crushed by feet. He tucks it into his belt. Something small that lived, even here. Varro stands, limping slightly but smiling. He touches the cut on his thigh and holds up his red fingers. "Proof of friendship," he says. The fighter nods. "Next time," Varro adds, "I'll bring 2 nets." "Next time," the fighter says, "I'll bring scissors." They both laugh. The crowd laughs too, though they don't know why. When the horn sounds again, handlers rush in with rakes to smooth the sand. The fighters walk toward the ramp that leads back underground. The light fades as they descend. The noise dulls to a heartbeat hum. Back to the belly. The Lanista meets them at the bottom, eyes shining. "You fools," he says, but he's smiling. "Good fools. Rome loves you now, even the sponsor's clapping. He thinks you did it for show." "Did we?" the Thracian asks from the shadows. "Of course you did," The lanista says, "That's the story I'll sell." He claps the fighter's shoulder. "Quiet one. Keep that name. It's worth gold now." The fighter just nods, still breathing hard, helmet under his arm. The world feels far away, like sound underwater. Back in the prep hall, men cheer as he enters. Even the handlers grin. The cook waves a ladle. "Our hero returns. Try not to die before dinner." The fighter drops to a bench. The medic cleans the scrapes on his forearm. "Anything broken?" "Just the usual," the fighter says. "Good. Pain means you're real." Varro limps over and sits beside him. Next time, no mercy. The crowd loves a winner. "You'd rather die?" Varro shrugs. "We all do, eventually. Might as well have music playing." They both look up at the ceiling, where sand still falls in little golden streams from the boards above. Each grain catches the torchlight as it falls, tiny suns drifting down to die. An older fighter nearby shakes his head. "You're lucky," he says. Most first matches end with a silence, not applause. The fighter wipes his face with a rag. Luck changes. Not for everyone. The old man grins, but it loves to tease. Later, the lanista gathers them in the yard again. He holds up a small purse and shakes it. "Payment from the sponsor," he says. He tosses a few coins to each man. "Don't spend it all on bad wine and worse choices." The Thracian bites one coin, squints. "Real?" "Real enough," the lanista says. "Spend it fast before it forgets you." That night, the ludus glows with torchlight and chatter. Even the guards seem looser. Someone found a jug of cheap wine and passed it around. The medic hums. The cook sings. The men join in with voices too rough for melody, but full of life. Varro raises his cup. "To mercy," he says. "To barley," the Thracian adds. "To breathing," the fighter says. They drink. The fire pops. The stars blink through the smoke like curious eyes. When the laughter dies, the fighter steps aside, looking up at the sliver of moon. He holds the crushed violet in his hand. Its color has faded, but the scent remains, faint, sweet, alive. He presses it between the pages of his wax tablet next to Livia's note. "Don't die before bread," she had written. He smiles. "Not today," he whispers. Before he sleeps, he sits by the gate and listens. Far away, the crowd still sings drunken echoes of the fight. "Quiet one, quiet one." The chant rises and falls like the tide. He closes his eyes, letting it wash over him, not as glory, but as proof. He's still here, still breathing, still remembered. He looks down at his hands, the same ones that once carried sacks of grain in another life. Now they carry a sword. Tomorrow, who knows? He rests his head against the cold iron of the gate. Behind it, the city hums soft as sleep. He imagines Livia setting bread by the post, the smell drifting up into the stars. He imagines her whispering, "He lived. That's enough." He closes his eyes. The night holds him. The crowd fades. The world slows. And the sand remembers. The quiet one can't. His body's still, but his mind won't stop pacing. Every time he closes his eyes, he's back in the light. The net flashing, the trident whistling, the crowd roaring his name like thunder rolling off marble. He should feel proud. He should feel alive. Instead, he just feels awake. Across the dorm, the Thracian snores loud enough to shake the roof. Someone throws a boot. He snorts, rolls over, keeps going. Another man mutters. He snores like a bear, giving birth. A few quiet chuckles. Even in cages, laughter finds cracks. The quiet one sits up, feet touching cold stone. The torch near the door flickers low, casting orange light across sleeping faces, rough, scarred, human. Every man here has a story, but none get to tell it until Rome's done cheering. He stands, grabs his cloak, and steps outside. The yard is empty. A half-moon hangs over the walls, pale and lazy. The sand looks peaceful now, smooth under the faint wind. You'd never know how much blood it swallowed. He walks to the center and kneels, running his fingers through the grains. Still warm from the day, still remembering. He thinks about the crowd chanting his name, quiet one, quiet one. How strange that a city full of voices could celebrate silence. Maybe that's why they liked him. He didn't shout back. He let them fill the noise for him. Footsteps behind. He doesn't turn. Can't sleep either? It's the medic, carrying a lantern and a jug that probably isn't full of medicine. Not tonight, the fighter says. Your heart's too loud. Happens to all who live past their first fight. The medic lowers himself beside him with a groan. Everything hurts more when you're lucky, he says. He pours a little wine into the sand as an offering. To the ones who didn't walk back. The fighter nods. They drink in silence. You did well, the medic says at last. The crowd loves you. Sponsors will pay double next time. I didn't fight for them. The medic raises an eyebrow. Then who? I don't know yet. The medic grins. That's the trick, isn't it? Figure out why you keep standing up. He leans back, looking at the moon. You know, I patch men every day who think they're heroes. But the real heroes are the ones who survive long enough to stop pretending. He sighs. Try not to die famous, quiet one. Rome forgets its heroes faster than it forgets its debts. He stands, brushing sand from his knees. Get some rest. Tomorrow you'll ache in new places. I need you alive so I can complain about work. He pats the fighter's shoulder, then disappears into the dark. The quiet one stays. The silence feels heavy but kind. He watches the moonlight crawl across the yard like a ghost that can't find home. He thinks of Varro's laugh, of the child shouting in the stands, of the violet tucked inside his wax tablet. Small things, beautiful things, real things. He whispers, I lived today. The night doesn't answer, but it listens. Morning crawls in slow, pale, and quiet. When the horn finally blows, it sounds gentler than usual, or maybe he's just ready for it. The men drag themselves out of bed, sore, grinning. Even those who didn't fight walk taller, as if glory rubbed off on them too. The cook ladles breakfast with unusual cheer. Barley again, he says proudly, Rome's favorite flavor. Groans echo through the hall. The Thracian waves his spoon. Still alive, barley boy. Barely, the fighter says. Good. You make the rest of us look lazy. The lanista enters mid-meal, no warning. Just appears, like he's been awake for hours plotting the day. He claps his hands once, loud. Enough chewing. Listen. The men freeze mid-bite. I have good news and bad news, he says. Good news. The sponsor was thrilled. You made him look generous. He even sent figs. He tosses a basket on the table. Half the men gasp like it's gold. Bad news, he continues. The sponsor also invited us to a bigger event, 4 days from now, the Colosseum itself. Silence. Even the spoons stop moving. Someone mutters, the big one. Another whispers, real beasts this time. The air thickens with fear and awe. The lanista folds his arms. Yes, the big one. Double pay, double danger. You'll represent this school. Don't make me regret keeping you alive. He looks straight at the fighter. You're headlining, quiet one. The city's talking about you. A few men clap softly. The Thracian whistles. Guess you're famous for real now, he says. The fighter just stares at his bowl. He feels the weight of every eye. Fame tastes like barley, but heavier. Training that day burns hotter. The lanista pushes them hard, shouting like a man trying to wake the sun itself. Shield higher. You think the lions will wait for permission? Swing like you mean it. The crowd paid for power, not pity. The quiet one's muscles scream, but he doesn't stop. Every swing is a memory, every block a breath of borrowed time. The Thracian collapses near the wall mid-drill. I think I'm allergic to excellence, he gasps. The medic walks by without looking, then die talented. Laughter bubbles up, weak but alive. Even pain has rhythm here. After drills, the lanista gathers the men in the shade. He holds up a wooden sword, tapping it against his palm. You want to live? You need to understand the crowd. They don't cheer for blood, they cheer for story. You're not men to them, you're echoes. Give them a shape worth remembering. He points at the quiet one. You gave them mercy yesterday. Today, they call you noble. Tomorrow, they'll want revenge. Let them. Use it. Make them think you're more than flesh. He tosses the sword to the ground. But never forget you are flesh. That's what keeps you hungry. As the sun drops, the ludus quiets again. Some men sharpen blades. Some write letters they'll never send. Some just stare at the sky through the bars. The fighter sits alone near the training posts, rubbing oil into his arm. Varro joins him, bandaged thigh stiff but healing. They say you're the star now, Varro says. I'd rather be the survivor. Same thing if you're lucky. He sits, groaning as he lowers himself to the sand. I heard we're both in the Colosseum fight. Maybe we meet again. Maybe, the fighter says. Varro smiles. Then remember, nets hate patience. I'll remember, the fighter says. And I'll bring 2 scissors. They laugh quietly, the kind of laugh that hides fear behind friendship. That night, a messenger arrives from the city with a sealed scroll. The lanista reads it by torchlight, lips tight. When he finishes, he walks to the quiet one's cell. He doesn't open the door, just speaks through the bars. A letter came for you, from the river district. The fighter's chest tightens. Livia. The lanista nods and slides it through. Don't ask how it got here. I don't care. Read fast. He walks away, sandals echoing down the corridor. The fighter unfolds the note with careful fingers. The handwriting is small, shaky. They sang your name today. I heard it from the market. You sounded alive. I left bread again, same place. The guards say the games will be soon. If you can see the sky that day, look for a blue cloth by the east gate. That's me. Don't die before bread. He reads it 3 times. His throat burns in the quiet. He folds it back slow, then presses it against his chest. When the others fall asleep, he stays awake, eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling. He listens to the city beyond the wall, its 1,000 lives, its 1,000 fires. Every sound feels far but familiar, like the ghost of a home. He thinks of what the lanista said. You're not men, you're echoes. Maybe that's true, but echoes still mean someone made a sound once, someone who was real. He whispers into the dark, then let them remember the sound. The torch outside his cell flickers once, then steadies. He closes his eyes, his heartbeat slows. And in the quiet between breaths, he swears he can still hear the faint chant from the arena. His name carried on the night wind, folding into the hum of the city like a song that doesn't know it's ended. And the sand remembers. Thumbs decide lives here, not swords, not prayers, thumbs. It sounds silly, right? A tiny finger tells a giant story. But in Rome, small signs are heavy. One little move and a man goes home. Another little move and a man goes nowhere at all. The quiet one sits on a low step by the yard wall, wrapping his wrist again. The medic checks the knots, nods. Still a wrist, he says. Good, the fighter says. I'm very proud of my work, the medic adds, deadpan. They both smile. Across the yard, the lanista lines the men up. Today, he says, we learn the signs. If you don't know them, you don't know Rome. He holds up his hand. First, mercy. Sometimes the crowd calls for it. Sometimes a sponsor does. Sometimes a reference. Rare, but it happens. He lowers the hand. Second, death. They shout, they chant, they beg for a finish. It's a fire that eats sense. Don't trust it, but understand it. He looks each man in the eye. Thumbs mean power. Yours do not. The Thracian raises a hand. So which is which? Up or down? The lanista sighs. Depends who you ask. Some push the thumb up, like a dagger lifted. Some push it down, like a dagger driven in. Some hide the thumb in the fist for mercy. He shrugs. Rome loves drama more than clarity. The men chuckle. The medic mutters, good for business. The cook calls from the doorway, bad for digestion. The lanista claps once. Enough jokes. Here's the truth. It's not a thumb that decides you. It's the mood, the crowd's mood, the sponsor's mood, the city's mood. If Rome wakes cruel, thumbs follow. If Rome wakes kind, you live to eat beans. He points to the quiet one. You gave mercy yesterday. The crowd liked it. But don't forget, if they had wanted death, they would have screamed until it felt like rain on your head. And someone would have given it to them. The fighter nods. He remembers the noise. He remembers the air vibrating like a drum. They move to the shady side of the yard for a class the lanista calls theater. He hates the word. He loves the results. Eyes, he says. Learn to read eyes. One man will shout kill and another will whisper spare, and both will lie. Ignore mouths, watch eyes. He lifts a wooden baton like a judge. Picture this. You knock a man down. He drops the sword. The crowd roars. You look up. What now? He points at the men. You will see faces. Rich ones, drunk ones, bored ones. Find the one that matters, the seat with the power. Read the eyes. Are they soft? Are they hungry? Then choose how to stand. Stand, the Thracian says. Yes, the lanista says. You can stand like a wolf or a dog. Same body, different story. This is Rome. Stories eat men. He makes them practice. Yes, practice mercy and death like drills. Quiet one, he says. Take the middle. The fighter steps forward. Varro, the lanista calls, and the retiarius limps in with a grin, playing along. Varro falls, the lanista orders. Varro drops to one knee, tosses his net aside, lifts empty hands. The lanista nods to the quiet one. Show me a plea for mercy. The fighter lowers his sword, opens his palm, then lifts it. Slow, clear, humble. He steps back one pace. His eyes say, I will not shame you. I will not be cruel. Decide, and I will obey. The lanista points his baton like a beak. Good. That sells mercy to the crowd. You look strong and calm. They like that. Now death, he says. The fighter changes nothing in his feet, but the air around him turns sharp. He drops his chin, tightens his grip, angles the blade just so. The look in his eyes goes flat as a pond on a windless day. No hate, no heat, just finish. The yard goes quiet, even the birds pause. The lanista breaks it with a clap. Better, he says, but softer. Don't use that face unless you must. It adds years to men who watch. Varro exhales. I didn't like that, he admits. Me either, the fighter says. They both smile to undo it. After theater, the medic takes over. He draws in the sand with a stick, a circle for the arena, a mark for the high seat, little scratches for the gates. Know where to stand when waiting for a decision, he says. Not too close to the fallen man. Looks like gloating. Not too far. Looks like fear. Here he taps a spot. A pace and a half. Sword down. Point in sand. Breathe. Count to 5. Let them argue. He scowls. They love to argue. The cook leans on the doorway, arms crossed. Romans would argue about water while on fire, he says. True, the medic agrees. So give them a moment to do it. If they want mercy, they'll wave. If they want death, you'll hear it in your ribs. The sun climbs. They break for water and a few bites of bread. Men sit in strips of shade like lizards trying not to cook. Varro taps his bandage and grimaces. Cuts clean, the medic says. Feels mean, Varro replies. It should, the medic says. It was born to. The Thracian flips a coin, the unlucky one, then catches it and makes a face. Still heavy, he says. Coins are always heavy, the fighter says. Not when you're spending them. They all laugh. Laughter is a good shield when thumbs are not around. After the break, the lanista teaches crowdcraft. Listen for words, he says. Mita means send away, mercy. Eugula means finish him. If you hear nothing, you look up. You find the sponsor. You make your face match his mood. He turns to the scribe under the arch. Read the notes, he orders. The scribe squints at his wax tablet. Recent crowds prefer mercy when the fallen fights bravely. They prefer death when the fall looks cowardly. They prefer blood just after lunch. A low groan moves through the line. The lanista shrugs. Bodies are simple. Rome is many bodies. Varro raises a hand. What if the sponsor wants death, but the crowd wants mercy? The lanista grins without joy. Then the sponsor wins, and later he buys the crowd more wine. Keep breathing. Let the rich sort out the math. He looks at the quiet one. What if the sponsor wants mercy and the crowd wants you to kill? The fighter answers, I show mercy. Why? Because the sponsor pays the bills. Good, the lanista says. Let mercy be rich when it needs to be. They rehearse signals with the herald. The herald's voice can cut through a storm. He teaches them how to make gestures big enough for the top seats to see. Arm high, elbow straight, he says. Don't flap like a bird. Don't twitch like a mouse. One clean line. You are not asking. You are showing your choice. He makes the quiet one repeat it 10 times. By the end, the fighter's shoulder burns. Better to burn now than in the arena. As afternoon leans toward evening, the lanista calls for a final lesson, quiet and sharp. He points to 2 men to spar, then halts them mid-feint. He turns to the rest. Mercy is not kindness, he says. Mercy is judgment. You give it when it helps your story. You deny it when it would steal your breath later. He paces. If a man cheats, the crowd might still beg for him. They like fun, but you remember the cut he aimed at your spine. You remember and you listen to the part of you that wants to live. He stops. Mercy is for the living. Don't spend it if it makes you dead. Silence. Not fear. Listening. He flicks the baton toward the gate. Back to drills, he says softly. As they move, a small boy appears in the doorway. Same one from the roof with the flute. Hair a mess, eyes bright. He has a blue cloth tied around his wrist, sun-bleached and brave. The guard is about to shoo him away, but the lanista raises a hand. 2 minutes, he says. The boy steps in shy steps. He looks at the quiet one and blurts, You didn't kill the fast man. I told my mother you wouldn't. The men smile. Varro bows. I am the fast man. The boy blinks. You're alive? For now. Good, the boy says. I like when people stay. He looks up at the quiet one again. If they point their thumbs wrong, he asks, What will you do? The yard waits for the answer. The quiet one kneels, so they are eye to eye. "I'll listen," he says. "To who?" The fighter taps his own chest. "To the only judge who watches me sleep." The boy thinks about that. "Is that you?" "Sometimes." The boy nods like he understands more than most. "Don't die," he says simply. "I'll try," the fighter says. The lanista nods to the guard. "Take him back." As the boy turns, the quiet one notices the blue cloth. A thought sparks. East Gate, blue cloth. He feels the letter in his memory like a warm stone. Training ends with shadows long on the sand. The medic passes out a bitter drink to calm nerves. "Tastes like old shoes," the Thracian says. "Old shoes don't have this many good herbs," the medic replies. The cook rings a ladle on a pot. "Stew!" he shouts. Men line up fast. You don't argue with stew. At the table, talk circles back to thumbs. What if the crowd can't decide? They always decide. What if they shout both? Then the loudest wins. What if it rains? Then we slip and look foolish. They all laugh. Some jokes keep the dark away. Night comes soft. The yard cools. The ludus breathes like a giant animal settling down. The quiet one sits on his bunk and flips open the wax tablet. The violet is still there, flatter now, but keeping its tiny promise. He smooths Livia's words with one finger. Blue cloth. East Gate. Don't die before bread. He whispers, "I'll look." The words feel like armor. In the quiet, memories march Varro's net. The crowds chant. The way the sponsor's smile turned when mercy won. The weight of the sword when he didn't use it. He wonders about the man he spared. He wonders if mercy will return the favor someday, or come back with teeth. He closes the tablet. He lies down. He watches a little square of moonlight on the ceiling and counts breaths, slow and careful. Somewhere out in the city, hands rise and fall over dinner, over dice, over small joys that don't bleed. Somewhere, a thumb turns up for a joke, down for a price, sideways for a story. In here, hands are still. He thinks of the boy's question. What if they point their thumbs wrong? He thinks of his answer. He hopes he meant it. He lets the day go, one finger at a time. And while Rome sleeps with its opinions, the sand keeps its quiet vote. The sand remembers. The Colosseum doesn't open. It awakens. Slow, heavy, hungry. Stone by stone, it remembers what it was built for. Dust rises from the arches, ropes creak, locks snap, 1,000 small movements becoming one thought. Feed me. Down below, the ludus hums like a hive before war. Armor clinks. Water splashes. Men oil their arms, polish helmets, whisper prayers they don't really believe in. The cook hums a funeral tune while stirring porridge. The medic sharpens his needles and doesn't speak. Even the lanista is quiet, which is scarier than when he shouts. The quiet one sits by the window slit, watching the sunlight crawl across the wall. It looks almost gentle, like the sky forgot what day it is. The Thracian walks in, already in armor. He drops onto the bench with a groan. "Smells like nerves in here." "Better than fear," the fighter says. "They smell the same to me," the Thracian says, biting a fig. He looks at the quiet one's calm face. "You're not scared?" "I am." "You don't look it." "That's the trick," the fighter says. The Thracian laughs, short and real. "Fine. You look brave. I'll stand next to you and steal the credit." The lanista appears in the doorway. Time. No speech today, no warnings. Just that one word, dropped like a hammer. They stand, shoulder to shoulder, and file into the yard. The morning light hits the helmets, bouncing gold into the shadows. For a moment, it's beautiful, a parade of ghosts pretending to be gods. The lanista raises a hand. "When you hear the first horn, Walk tall. Don't look at the crowd. Don't look for mercy. Just walk. He pauses, eyes scanning his men. You've trained. You've bled. You've earned this. The rest is luck, and luck doesn't take bribes. He almost smiles. Make me rich, barley men. The gates open. Outside, the city gathers like a tide. Every street leading to the Colosseum overflows with people, bakers, beggars, children, senators, thieves. Rome itself walks toward the beast it built. Vendors shout over each other, dates, almonds, wine, tickets, good seats, bad morals, fig leaves for the faint of heart. The smell is thick, sweat, spice, hot bread, and animal musk from the cages nearby. You could drown in it. The fighters march in line, their sandals slap stone in rhythm. Crowds part, whispering names they only half remember. Varro, the Thracian, quiet one. Coins change hands, bets are made, some cheer, some spit. All watch. The Colosseum rises above them like a god that forgot mercy long ago. Its arches grin wide, each mouth packed with faces. 50,000 eyes blinking in sunlight, ready to feed. Inside, the air changes, cool stone, the echo of footsteps. Every sound stretches and doubles. The fighters stop at the base of a ramp that leads up to the arena floor. The lanista walks ahead, whispers to a guard, and points at the quiet one. The guard nods and marks a slate. First pairing after the beasts, he says. The lanista claps the fighter's shoulder. You'll have time to think. Don't waste it. He turns to the group. Once you go up, you belong to Rome. When you come down, you belong to me again, if you still can. Then he leaves. They wait in a long hall lined with wooden doors. Through cracks, the sounds of the world above drift down. Cheers, drums, the high roar of something that isn't human. The animals are already out. Varro leans against a wall, chewing on a strap. Think it's lions or leopards today? The Thracian shrugs. Depends on who escaped last time. Not funny, the medic mutters, sorting bandages. It's a little funny, the Thracian says. The quiet one doesn't speak. He listens. He can tell what's happening by the rhythm. The first roar, bear. The fast snarl, cat. The heavy thud, bull. And then the silence, the kind that comes only when the crowd has seen enough. The trapdoor above them opens with a crash. A handler drops down, face pale, tunic torn. They want men now, he gasps. The beasts are tired, but the crowd isn't. He looks around, finds the names on his board. Varro, quiet one, you're up first. The Thracian mutters, always the favorites. The quiet one glances back. Take care of my stew. You think I won't? The Thracian says. I'll eat yours too. They bump fists, a promise and a goodbye all in one. As they step onto the lift, the light from above cuts across their faces. It's too bright to look at. The crowd's roar grows with every inch they rise. By the time they reach the top, it's no longer sound. It's wind, heat, heartbeat, everything at once. The herald shouts their names. Varro, the swift, the quiet one, the merciful. The crowd roars approval. They remember. They want a sequel. The fighters bow to the high box where the sponsor sits, jeweled and glowing like a bloated sun. He raises his goblet, smiling down. The lanista stands near the edge, face unreadable. The floor looks endless from here, sand smooth as silk, broken only by scars of last week's games. The smell of iron hangs thick. A breeze slides through the open arches, carrying the murmur of Rome itself. Varro spins his net once. Same rules as last time, he says. Same answer, the quiet one says. The referee raises a baton. Begin. They move slow at first. No rush, no panic. It's not hate, it's theater. Each step measured, each swing meant to speak to the crowd. They circle like planets around a small sun of silence. Varro strikes first, quick as a snake. The trident lunges, feints, twists. The quiet one blocks, ducks, steps away. They trade moves like old friends trading lies. The crowd cheers every motion, even misses. To them, near death is better than victory. Near death sells wine. Midway through, Varro slips. Not much, just a bit of sand under his heel. The quiet one sees it. Everyone sees it. Time slows. He could finish it. A single cut. A roar from the crowd. More coins for the lanista. But he stops. He hesitates just long enough for Varro to regain footing. Varro meets his eyes and whispers, "Why?" "Because I already won," the quiet one says. The crowd doesn't hear the words, only the rhythm. They sense the pause, the tension, and they love it. The chant rises again. Quiet one, quiet one. But up in the high box, the sponsor frowns. He lifts his hand, thumb extended, wavering sideways. He looks at the crowd, expecting the same. Instead, they shout, "Mercy!" Louder, then louder still. The sponsor glances around, trapped between popularity and pride. He hesitates too long. The crowd takes the choice from him. Thousands of voices merge. "Mercy! Mercy! Mercy!" The referee raises his hand. The herald shouts, "Mercy granted!" The quiet one lowers his sword again. Varro sinks to one knee, grinning through sweat and relief. He slaps the fighter's shoulder. "You're going to get me fat with gratitude." The fighter smirks. "Then you can fight slower next time." The crowd's cheer swells into something larger, not for blood, not for victory, but for the idea that mercy itself can be brave. Rome, for one strange moment, believes in kindness. Even the beasts in their cages below go still, listening to the thunder above. When they return underground, the lanista is waiting. His eyes narrow, but his mouth twitches upward. "You just cost me a fortune," he says, "and made me twice as famous. Congratulations, quiet one. You're everyone's favorite moral lesson." He leans close. "Careful. Rome loves mercy today. Tomorrow, it'll love vengeance again." He turns away before the fighter can answer. Back in the prep hall, the medic rushes over, checking them both. "No new holes," he mutters. "I'm almost disappointed." Varro groans and sits. "Quiet one saves me twice. Soon I'll owe him rent." "You already do," the medic says. The cook appears, waving a ladle. "They're chanting outside," he says. "I can hear it from the kitchen." You'd think they never saw someone not die before. They hadn't, the fighter says softly. As evening falls, the crowd disperses through the streets, still buzzing with the story. At the ludus, men eat in silence, too tired to joke. Even the Thracian just nods at his friend. "You looked tall out there," he says. "I felt small," the fighter says. "That's how you know you were real." Later, when the torches burn low, the fighter stands by the wall, gazing through the slit toward the city. He can see faint smoke rising from the markets, hear faint laughter from taverns, smell faint bread from the bakeries by the river. He imagines a woman with a blue cloth tied to her wrist, watching from the east gate, whispering, "He lived." He closes his eyes, breath in, breath out, alive. Above, the Colosseum cools under moonlight. Empty seats gleam like bones. The sand lies flat again, pretending it never moved. But beneath it, in its quiet, patient heart, the echoes of the day settle deep. The laughter, the chants, the mercy, the sound of a sword not used. The Colosseum sleeps, but it does not forget, and the sand remembers. They call it panem et circenses, bread and circuses. Give the people food and a show, and they'll forget everything else. It worked. It always worked. The quiet one wakes to the smell of baking bread. For a moment, he forgets where he is. He could almost believe he's home, that his cell wall is a kitchen, that the straw under him is a floor, that the cheers from yesterday were just thunder rolling over the city. Then the horn blows. and the dream ends. He sits up, rubbing his neck. Varro snores 2 beds over. The Thracian mumbles something about fish stew in his sleep. The medic walks by carrying a tray of bandages and mutters, "If I had a denarius for every time a man confused luck for skill, I'd own the forum." Life goes on, even when you almost die for applause. At breakfast, the cook ladles out barley again. The men groan like a choir. The cook grins. "It builds champions," he says. "It builds boredom," the Thracian replies. "Then you're halfway to peace," the cook says, handing him an extra scoop. Varro limps to the bench and drops down beside the quiet one. "You made history yesterday," he says through a mouthful. "I made soup," the fighter answers. "That too," Varro laughs. "You know what the crowd's calling you now? The merciful blade." The Thracian snorts. "Sounds like a kitchen knife." "Better than the fast corpse," Varro fires back. They both laugh. The quiet one just stirs his bowl. "Names change faster than weather here. Yesterday's hero is tomorrow's ghost." After breakfast, the lanista gathers everyone in the yard. He's dressed better than usual. Fine cloak, polished boots. That's never a good sign. "Listen up," he shouts. The sponsor is pleased. Says yesterday's mercy made him look noble. He's throwing a feast in the forum tonight. And guess who's invited? The men cheer. Then he raises a hand. "Not you," groans. He smirks. "Just the merciful blade." "Quiet one, you're coming with me. The sponsor wants to meet the man who made him a philosopher." The Thracian whistles. "You'll see real bread tonight." Varro adds, "And real wine. Try not to forget us poor gladiators while you swim in grapes." The quiet one just nods. Feasts mean speeches. Speeches mean danger. That evening they travel by cart through the winding streets of Rome. Children run alongside, shouting his name. Vendors wave, offering bread for luck. A few even bow. The lanista grins at the attention. "See, quiet one? You're famous. People forget emperors, but they never forget the man who made them cheer." The fighter looks out at the crowd. They forget everything eventually. The lanista shrugs. Then make them forget slower. The forum is chaos wrapped in marble. Musicians play. Slaves pour wine. Every table overflows with roasted birds, honey cakes, olives, figs. It's more food than the ludus we'll see in a year. The sponsor sits at the head table, the same jeweled man from the games, his robe gleaming like oil. He opens his arms as they approach. "My merciful friend, the crowd adores you. You've made me a symbol of virtue without me lifting a finger." He laughs and gestures for them to sit. The lanista bows low, all smiles. The fighter bows too, but slower. The sponsor pours wine himself, a rare gesture. "You've given Rome a new kind of hero," he says. "Not brute strength, restraint. The poets are already writing about you." He leans in. "Do you know what mercy does, quiet one?" The fighter shakes his head. "It sells tickets," the sponsor says, laughing so hard he nearly spills his cup. The lanista joins in, loud and forced. The fighter smiles thinly. His hand tightens around the goblet. As the night goes on, the sponsor grows bolder, boasting to every senator within reach. "My gladiator, the merciful blade. Proof that Rome can be both civilized and savage." Every time he says it, the fighter feels smaller. He's not a man anymore. He's a product. A story sold between bites of roasted lamb. He looks down at the table. A loaf of bread sits untouched beside his plate. Fresh, warm, real. It smells like mornings by the river. He breaks off a piece and eats in silence. It tastes like home. Later, when the feast dies down, the lanista finds him outside by the fountain. "You held your tongue well," he says. "I was eating." The lanista smirks. "Next time, eat slower. The more they talk, the more they pay." He glances at the quiet street. Enjoy this while it lasts. Crowds forget fast. Tomorrow they'll want blood again. That's the game. The fighter nods. I know. The lanista studies him a moment. You don't like the game anymore, do you? I never did, the fighter says. Then why keep playing? The fighter looks up at the stars. Because I'm not free enough to quit. The lanista sighs. Fair. Just remember, mercy can win the day, but Rome always asks for blood in the end. He pats the fighter's arm. Get some rest. You fight again soon. Back at the ludus, the men are waiting. The Thracian waves a crust of bread. Bring us leftovers? Only crumbs, the fighter says. We'll take them. They laugh. Varro grins. So, did you dine with kings? Worse, the fighter says, with sponsors. Varro chuckles. At least sponsors don't bite. The medic, passing by, mutters, not with teeth. The laughter fades into comfortable quiet. For a brief moment, it feels almost like family. Almost. Later, when the others sleep, the quiet one sneaks into the yard. The moon hangs low, round as a loaf of bread. He kneels, draws a circle in the sand, and whispers to the night, Livia, I saw the bread you left. I lived again. I'm still trying. He presses his hand into the sand beside the circle. It leaves a print that looks like nothing, and everything. Then he wipes it away. The next day brings new rumors. Whispers spread through the ludus, a rebellion in the north, a famine in the south, senators arguing in the streets, but the Colosseum still full, still cheering, still needing bread and blood. The medic shakes his head as he tends a new recruit. Rome falls slower when it's entertained. The cook stirs his pot. Then we'll be safe forever. By dusk, the city lights up again for another round of games. The crowd returns, hungry and loud. The drums start, the gates rise, and the show begins anew. The quiet one waits below, hands steady, eyes calm. He knows the rhythm now. He knows what the crowd wants. But somewhere deep inside, a thought flickers. What if mercy was only the start? What if you could remind Rome that the people on the sand were still human, that their blood was the same color as the men who paid to see it? The thought is small, foolish even, but it burns like a coal that refuses to die. The lanista calls his name. Quiet one, you're up next. The fighter stands, buckles his armor, and nods. He steps toward the light once more. Behind him, the medic whispers, try not to ruin the empire tonight. I'll start small, the fighter says. He smiles, not for the crowd, not for the glory, but for the bread waiting by the east gate. A promise, a reason. He takes one last breath, slow and deep, and walks toward the roar. Above, the Colosseum trembles with life again. The crowd doesn't know they're cheering for a man, not a myth. They don't see the thought behind his eyes, or the small piece of home hidden in his heart. They just see a story, but stories can change, even in Rome, and the sand remembers. Some places never forget. They just grow quiet enough to be mistaken for silence. The Colosseum sits heavy and eternal, its great ribs of stone catching the last sunlight. Shadows climb its walls like memories finding their way home. And somewhere beneath it, under centuries of dust, the sand still sleeps, dreaming of the men who once made it move. Time has taken everything else. The crowds are gone. The emperor's gone. The marble seats chipped and eaten by moss. But the sand remembers every step. If you stand in the middle of the arena at dusk, the city noise fades away. You can almost hear the breath of the old world, the clink of armor, the whisper of nets, the rumble of 50,000 hearts beating as one. Every echo is a ghost politely waiting its turn to speak. Somewhere in those echoes walks a man they once called the Quiet One. Not a god, not a legend. Just a man who fought when he had to and stopped when he could. Rome made him a symbol. Life made him human again. He didn't build a monument. He didn't lead an army. He just lived, day after day in a small house near the river with the smell of bread and the sound of laughter through open windows. He carried no sword, only a wooden one, smooth from his hands polishing it while he thought. Neighbors said he kept to himself, but kids liked him. He carved small toys from scrap wood, horses, boats, shields no bigger than a thumb. Sometimes he'd hand one to a passing child and say, "Take care of it. It remembers more than you think." He worked quietly in a bakery with Livia. The two of them baked loaves at dawn, sold them by noon, and watched the sky from the steps at dusk. She'd joke that he still rolled dough like he was blocking sword strikes. He'd smile and say, "It's all balance." Years passed the way years do, unnoticed until you turn around. Rome changed its rulers. The games continued for a while, smaller, meaner, trying to be what they were. Then one day they stopped. No trumpet, no decree, just stopped. The amphitheater fell silent, and silence lasted longer than applause ever did. Sometimes the quiet one would walk by the Colosseum early in the morning when the mist still hugged its base. He'd stop by the locked gate and listen. If you listened long enough, the walls seemed to breathe. The sand seemed to shift, as if turning in its sleep. He never went inside. He'd just stand there, remembering everyone who didn't walk away. Then he'd nod once and head back toward the smell of rising bread. The city forgot the names long ago, but names are just noise anyway. What stayed were the stories, retold by bakers, soldiers, mothers, and drunk poets who swore their uncle's friend once saw the quiet one spare a man in front of the emperor himself. Each version grew taller, grander, less true, but every story carried the same pulse. That mercy, once given, never really dies. It just changes shape until it finds someone new to hold it. One spring morning, when the sun rose lazy and kind, the quiet one didn't open the shop. Livia found him sitting by the window, head tilted as if he'd just spotted something far away. His hands rested on the rudies across his knees. He looked peaceful, like he'd been listening for the final cheer. They buried him by the river, under a fig tree that leaned toward the water. The rudies went with him, not as a weapon, but as proof that he once earned his own tomorrow. Livia tied a blue cloth around the tree trunk. When the wind blew, it fluttered like a wave saying, "He's home." Years turned into centuries. The river shifted course. The bakery became a tavern, then a ruin, then dust. The fig tree grew tall, then hollow, then fell, but its roots held the soil together long after. People built new walls, new streets, new cities. And still, under all of it, the sand kept its promise. It remembered. Even now, when tourists walk through the Colosseum, their shoes crunch the same grains that once soaked in blood and hope. They point at the stone seats, the arches, the broken statues. They take pictures. They laugh. They say, "Can you imagine?" But if you stand still long enough to forget your phone, long enough for the sound of the city to fade, you can almost feel the heartbeat beneath your feet. It's faint, steady, alive, not of death, but of everything that survived it. Maybe the sand remembers because it doesn't choose. It holds everyone the same, victor and victim, emperor and slave, hero and fool. It doesn't keep score, it just keeps stories. And if you listen closely, it tells them in the only language it knows. Silence that means something. At sunset, the arena glows again, just like it did 2,000 years ago. Light pours through the arches, painting gold across the stone. Shadows stretch long, as if bowing. The walls breathe warm, and the wind carries faint whispers of cheers that aren't really there. It's not haunting, it's remembering. Somewhere in that memory, a voice says softly, mercy isn't weakness. It's proof that you're still human when the world tries to make you forget. It sounds like the quiet one. It could be anyone. Maybe that's the point. The camera drifts upward, higher, over the arches, over the empty seats, over the city that grew from ashes. The streets below pulse with life, vendors shouting, dogs barking, music spilling from open windows. Different voices, same song. Rome still loves its noise. Rome still loves its bread. But somewhere in that noise, the old whisper remains, the one that says kindness is also power. And maybe that's what the Colosseum means now. Not blood, not empire, not spectacle, but the quiet truth buried beneath it. That even in a world built on cruelty, mercy can echo longer than cruelty ever will. The last light fades. The sky turns the color of warm iron. The arches glow one more time, then go dark. A breeze stirs the sand. It shifts, soft, slow, like an old friend rolling over in its sleep. And if you listen closely, through the night wind and the hum of the city beyond, you'll hear it. A single breath left behind by every man who ever fought here, a promise that no life is truly forgotten, and a whisper that still says, "The sand remembers." History is full of noise, kings, battles, empires shouting over each other. But what stays with us aren't the shouts. It's the quiet moments, the breath before the sword falls, the mercy after, the hand that chooses to hold instead of hurt. Because in the end, history doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to those who left something worth remembering, and the sand always remembers. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please give us a like. And if you're new here, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps us to continue to make videos like this. Thanks again for watching. This is Nocturnal Narration signing off. Until next time.